Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's an anniversary kind of night, talking UFOs, aliens, ET contact with my good friend and your good friend, Samantha Mowat. She returns for the first time in 2023. God, I'm so happy when Samantha is here. Just makes for an incredible show. Dirty Filth is here with another great cartoon. And I got a quick message. If you are a wrench in our chat room, could you please put your email in the chat room, and Kira and myself are going to grab them because we got to get our wrenches a little bit more organized here. And so we need your email so that way we can kind of send you all something on what's going on here with our wrenches on the YouTube channel. That would be wonderful if you could. And thank you so much. Let's say hello to everyone in the chat room tonight. Starting off with Race Fan in the gold medal position, taking home the silver. We have Yum Yum Devil and then Sugar Britches with a bronze medal tonight. Hey, Gong Show, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. Gong Show will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Roy Boy, Chris, Eric Markham, Brown Dwarf, Lisa C., Monica, Emmy Tong. Good to have you all here. Hi, Hadley. How you doing? Number 17 in your program from Stockholm, Sweden, starting on defense, Lars Janssen. There he is. Yep. He's a plus 56 on the season so far. Plus 56. Moving on, let's say hello to Penny Van and the lovely Kira and Rugged Source. Good to have you both here. Dutch Hank. Thank you for winning the cup in NHL 23 last night for the Oilers. I appreciate that. Sundance Kid, good to see you. And let's see, who else? Thurston Howell III, Logan L. Good to have you both here. Hey, D. Cohen and Willard Wright. Donna, how are you? Kathy Evans, nice to see you. Paramarv, what's new, my man? Thin Lizzie, we'll see you in Vegas, my dear, doing tarot card readings for everybody. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited when she told me the news earlier today. Millennium, my man. How's it going, man? Good to see you here. Richard Elmore, thanks for coming on in. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. And where are we here? Pam Harris, nice to have you here. Vash the Impaler, Joey Hayes, Welshhammer, good to see you all. Pixie Lara, always a pleasure. Pat Toohey, good to see you. As we continue on with roll call here tonight, Robert Lamont. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Laura Lobbs, Dina Williams, nice to see you both. Ozzy Sue, nice to have you here. Dirty Filth, Sibylla Irwin, Jaden, nice to have you all here. Hey, Digger Dog, thanks for coming on in. Gizmo, what's happening? And Trisha, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much, Trisha. And with that, Trisha is going to be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Nikki in Seattle, Redneck, War Criminal, Thomas Rock. Good to have you all here. My brother Eugene, thank you for coming on in, my man. Barry Brown, Robin McCrae, love to you both you. And let's see, who else? Silent Listen. And let's get the radio side started because we need that. We need to get Bill WD-40 into the chat room because, we need him to lube us up for tonight's show. You always want to go into a show smooth. Raymond L., good to have you here. And who else do we have? We have sweet Donna Spencer, John Sabe Mellon. And let's see who else is here. Brown Dwarf. Good to see you, my man. Andrew, nice to have you back. Cleveland, how's it going over there, buddy? Hope you're having a good night. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. I think we're almost caught up. And let's see here. 15 seconds to go. Our store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And let's get ready to rock and roll. Samantha Mowat is our guest tonight, and we're going to talk aliens and UFOs. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It's a great show of extraterrestrial contact and UFOs tonight. My good friend Samantha Mowat, her website, samanthamowat.ca, is here with us to break it all down. It's an anniversary of sorts for old Davey. And then in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Then we'll be joined by Tim Senor for the UFO reports. 9 years ago tonight, my life changed forever. Yeah. When I was contacted at a friend's house through a migraine of all things to go outside and walk into their back field. The next thing I know, I am witnessing a UFO light up on the ground. It was scary, yet beautiful, and a beautiful experience that to this day, I still have no idea what the hell it was. It also led to a long-standing friendship with our guest tonight, Samantha Mowat. You see, I met Samantha 5 days after this incident, and it's been all UFO history with my good friend since then. Her website, samanthamowat.ca. We're going to get right into it tonight. Samantha, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How you been, my friend?
I'm okay. It's been a bit of a crazy 2 years. How about you, Dave?
Well, hockey season is now over, and I don't know. You're more north than me, so I don't know how the snow is where you are, but I'm actually starting to see some very brown, wet, gross grass come through my snow in my backyard.
Yeah, us too. I still have snow piles in my front yard and backyard, so sleds are going away, but I'm kind of excited for gardening in the next 2 months. That'll be nice.
Yeah, I haven't figured out the gardening thing here yet because the season is so short. Like literally, you only have about 3.5 months to grow your vegetables. That's it. Yeah. 3.5 months. Old Davey, not much of a green thumb when it comes to things like that. But nonetheless, I'm okay with that. But it is good to see you again because, around this time of the year, you are one of the most important people in my life. And for the last 9 years, I have bragged endlessly about the person you are and what you mean to me as not only a friend, but somebody who has held my hand through one of the hardest times of my life, which was this UFO encounter and then seeing extraterrestrials in the forest with you. It changed my life forever. And looking back on it, it was so synchronistic that you happened to be there that day
Mhm.
to experience that. It was like it was planned and drawn out that way, Samantha.
It's probably a good chance that it was planned out for you to have that happen, Dave. A lot of people who are going through a form of spiritual awakening, which at that time for you, 9 years ago, you really were going through a huge paradigm shift in everything that you believed in. You were reevaluating everything from like what you've been taught in childhood to looking at where things were going. So you saw the angel of death in your mother's eye. You end up having that experience at our friend's house. And then we had that joint encounter going on. You had a lot of paranormal things and having craft coming and being visible to you at numerous times of that period of your life. And so I think you were going through a spiritual awakening. And this was kind of that paramount experience right after a really other significant experience 5 days prior that made it so you really went down this journey that you're currently on with spaced out radio and everything else.
We're going to get heavily into this for the
Yeah.
next couple of hours, but for our listeners, because we always have new listeners, and since you were last on, we've added a new radio station in
Yeah.
Vernal, Utah. Thank you, X94 channel in Utah, and we appreciate you guys tuning us in. I want to kind of bring up the fact that you are a lifelong ET contactee,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have troubles understanding what that means, but your childhood was much different than many others out there.
Yes, it was. And, I understand where a lot of people are coming from, where they have difficulty looking at the concept of someone having extraterrestrial, multidimensional contact from infancy all the way through to, their end of life, their death. And part of how it's a little bit different being I like to call them bloodline contactees, because often they're incarnating into families who have contact going back for multiple generations. And, with my situation, how it's a little bit different than, say, someone who just has one or two contact experiences is when you're going through this, you will start having contact from the time you're a tiny baby all the way through. And quite often you'll get seen at least a couple times a year by the beings who are having contact with your family. And it kind of changes because you go from having just your regular health checkups, them checking your development, doing some genetic modification, to going to school on craft, going into the breeding programs if your genetics are appropriate and in alignment with what they're looking for. And then come the orchestrated relationships and then teaching on craft as well. There's really a lot that happens when you are someone who has contact for a long period of time. But one thing I do want to mention about being someone who's had contact from a very small age is if you are someone who thinks you might be having contact, but you're not certain if you are, if you look back at your childhood and you are someone who sleptwalked a lot, who felt like you have these weird kind of like memories or sensations of you floating up through the ceiling or going through the walls in your house or through the windows, and you have some sort of like memories around things like either, you could have some vague memories around the grays or sense of familiarity around them. You might remember seeing things like owls or having an aversion to things like clowns, things like that, or large stuffed animals coming into your bedroom at night. Chances are those could be repressed memories, which is what I've found for a lot of people who are lifelong contactees. A lot of them do suppress it. Not all of them get the pleasure of remembering it as it occurs.
For you, as you have gone on this journey that is once in a lifetime for many people. I mean,
Mhm.
how have you gone about accepting what has happened to you? How has your life, say, been different than, many other people whom you've met?
It's honestly, Dave, in a lot of ways, I can see the appeal of being normal. Um, there's a lot of differences. When I look at a lot of the paradigms that happened, for instance, when I was very, very small, having a strong fascination with things like psychic abilities, UFO phenomena, things like cryptids, trying to understand some of the multidimensional reality of our universe, that is so much easier for a child to wrap their head around, and for the adults in their life and their teachers and their coaches and even their parents to really be accepting of and encouraging of, than they would look at that type of stuff and they would want to encourage you to pursue your passions, but they'll look at this and be like, okay, that's really, even though like really weird. And even though my parents are contactees, and even though they have been willing to talk with their contact with me from the time I was quite small, In a lot of ways, I think they would have preferred for me to be someone who was much more involved in saying normal things and have my contact memories suppressed because it would have been easier for them. I would be that annoying child who, when we're driving across the country, would be asking a million questions about why. Why are the lights like that? Why do we do this? Why do we get married like this? Why does all this happen? And I think it's that aspect of contact that always has your mind questioning, trying to understand things about what's happening, which does make things very difficult. Dave, I'd love to be a normal person. I can totally see the appeal, like what most people have, getting to go to university, something I was not allowed to do, even though I wanted to. The beings kept making it so even though I'd get accepted, even though I'd get scholarships, things would happen so I wasn't able to go at that time. And I was not able to stay in just one location. I was not able to do a lot of the normal things that humans get to experience because I have a job to do, which is normalizing psychic abilities and ET contact. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. I would love to have had a normal wedding and stuff like that and had those type of human experiences because it makes you much more relatable to everyone else. Do you understand?
Yeah, for people who may not understand what's different about you because you talk so normally and casually about it,
Yeah.
how has your life been different? What is different than, say, Joe
Mhm.
or Jane Smith who live in the middle of Saskatchewan or live in the
Yeah.
middle of North Dakota or wherever, who've never seen a UFO but have interest in this subject, never been taken?
Yeah.
What's the big difference between you and them?
A lot genetically. I want for you to think of it this way. I've been going to school on craft since I was a very small person. So about 8, 10 years old, you start going to school on craft, where you learn about various things like how to read energy, which enables you to sense more about people, to understand when they're being honest, when they're not being honest, if they're having illnesses within their body, if they're having problems within their relationships or problems within their own life in general. It kind of gives you this ability to read into people quite easily, whether you intend to or not. And that can actually make you a bit of an outsider with humans because they don't necessarily like their dirty laundry being aired all the time, which isn't necessarily a good thing when you're a teenager and in your 20s and you're trying to connect to people because you don't quite understand the societal, allowances of what you can and can't talk to people about without them feeling uncomfortable. Now, looking at the ET aspect and how that's all interconnected between these, let's say what I go through versus a normal person. When you guys get sick, you just go see a doctor. You try to handle it as long as you can, and if it gets bad enough, you go deal with the doctor. That's fine. But when I get sick, I often have ETs coming to help me, to heal me. If I have a problem with my lungs, they'll come take care of that. If let's say, this is going to be TMI once again, but let's say they're wanting to collect more hybrid fetuses from me. And when I have sex, I get pregnant very easily because of the way they've altered my genetics in my body. I do get pregnant very quickly and very easily, which can be a giant pain in the ass because my pregnancy symptoms come forward very quickly. And quite commonly, the ETs will come and take my children. So rather than have fun trying for 6 months to, let's say, make a baby like most people get to have, I get pregnant very quickly, and then the ETs come and they take that baby, and then the same thing happens again 6 weeks later, where it's almost like quite often when that happens, I get these children that get taken from me. And then when I go up onto craft, I get to meet these children, which then creates these feelings of longing, like I don't have control over like when I get to see my hybrid children. And I wonder quite often when I do get pregnant, am I going to get to keep this one, or is this one going to be taken from me? So it's a whole different set of anxiety when it comes to that aspect, because I'm in multiple genetic breeding programs ranging from the greys to the reptilians to some of the mantises, different humanoid groups. There's a lot of varieties that I'm being bred with as far as that is concerned. So that is one area it's very different. For those of you who have children that are not contactees, who wonder what it's like to be a contactee and to have your family go through this, you don't have to worry when you hear a noise in the middle of the night going, crap, is that my kid sleepwalking? Are they going to have an encounter? What's going on? Who's above our house right now? Why is my kid trying to walk into a wall? Oh, wait, I feel a craft outside. I don't like the feeling of that vibration, or I do like the feeling, so I'll let them go versus I won't let them go. That type of thing happening. You guys don't ever find yourself waking up in the middle of the night because you wake out of a catatonic state in your night clothes, standing outside barefoot, being like, why the am I outside right now? And then realizing there's like something coming to collect you, or that you're just being put back from an encounter. It can also be stressful because sometimes you'll get put back from an encounter and your door will be unlocked. And you'll be like, I know for a fact I locked that door before I went to bed, which is kind of frustrating. There's a lot of variations to this, Dave. Even like with my work, because I do clairvoyant sessions for a living, what this can be problematic with is if I have a really intense encounter, let's say they were to give me something to drink, and that is really important for my body because I'm low on certain minerals or certain vitamins, it can still make me feel nauseous the next day. It can still throw me off. And then I might have to postpone work and make it so that I can't deal with that the next day or the next couple of days, because sometimes energetically there's just too much going on to be able to do my job well. Do you understand?
Oh, I fully understand. I hope our audience does too, as we are talking with Samantha Mowat here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Sam, for you, having contact is, not a daily, but a very frequent basis here. There are people who have dreamed about having an experience, or people who have dreamed about just seeing a UFO, and yet their stories of are or their belief of people such as you, myself, and other multiple experiencers out there is very hard for them to swallow. How do we, as multiple experiencers, where we have literally no physical proof outside of trust, how do you get your story across as to somebody who is, say, very skeptical?
Well, I have more medical proof with my body than I do physical proof of having like an artifact and like this is alien technology. They won't give me that. But looking at how to help other people to be able to understand the validity of there being multi-experienced contactees out there, or even just singular experienced contactees out there, there are a few things they can do to help increase their likelihood of having contact and actually enable them to have contact themselves. I would actually recommend learning to develop their psychic abilities, in particular, things like astral projection. A lot of contact that people have is actually psychic or astral, meaning when you go to sleep at night, having control over where you go, what dimension you travel to, what beings you see, you can really have control over that just simply by learning how to control your mind and learning how to focus. And this will enable you to encounter multiple different types of beings that actually operate on different dimensional planes than that which we occupy. When I talk about these beings and I say extraterrestrial and multidimensional beings, it's because I recognize that many of the beings that we believe are extraterrestrial are actually from different dimensional planes or realms than that which we occupy. So the main area of life that they live in is on a different vibrational frequency than what we currently live at. And so it's very important for you to learn how to project your consciousness and to have control over it. And that's what psychic abilities and psychic development are simply being able to better recognize the fine-tuned energy around you, whether it's the visual energy, the mental energy, the emotional energy, simple things like that. And you don't have to develop them all at once. Simply focusing on one at a time will do. There's tons of tutorials online, be it TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, psychic development books out there, you name it, all of which will help you. And simply by doing this, you will increase the likelihood that these beings want to communicate with you.
So with the critics out there, I mean, they listen to you and they're like, reading some of the comments in the chat room. They're like, if this was happening to me, I'd be fighting back. I would not take this whatsoever. Can you fight back?
To an extent.
Or do you just let it happen?
Well, one thing that I haven't talked about a lot with people is last year I had a not so friendly group abducting myself and my children. And these beings were coming into our reality physically. My children and I were in the process of walking out of our carport late in this autumn. And I didn't like the beings who were abducting us. And I grabbed one of the shovels that we have at our carport and I smacked one across the face of the shovel. So yes, you can fight back. But they did not treat me nice after that, of course, and I can't blame them. But I did not trust these beings. I didn't feel safe with them having myself and my children within their care. And I paid for it for several months, Dave. I developed a lot of pain at my cervix because they were taking me for hybridization purposes. They were wanting to take one of the children that was developing within me. And it has caused me a tremendous amount of pain to the point that I've gone for a colposcopy, as well as numerous gynecological exams to see if there was something developing that shouldn't be there. It was bad to the point that I couldn't bend over without wanting to cry. So you can fight back to an extent with some of these beings. But some of them are very psychically capable and will put you into a catatonic or altered state of consciousness that does not enable you to be able to have the mental capability to even think of what to do next.
What kind of being was it?
It was a variety of Andromedan that wasn't very nice. It was the first variety of Andromedan that I've met that wasn't kind to me.
Wow. And for people who would ask, what did it look like? Can you describe it?
Not a problem. This variety of Andromeda was 5.5 feet tall. It had similar features in a lot of ways to the Greys, where it has a large bulbous type head that has a muddy brown type, kind of like textured skin, where it has a variety of almost like dark brown overlapping with like light brown, similar to how tree bark is, where you can see the variations in the brown tones. And it had large almond-shaped eyes, similar to the Greys. These ones wore clothing, and their clothing looked a little bit different. It was going in one sense, like I would look at it and I would see a human coming to get us, and then I would kind of feel the energy and I'd recognize it wasn't right, and you would kind of like, I'd push my consciousness forward to try to see more of what was going on, and I would see an Andromedan wearing more of a loose-fitted type gown coming to get us, and there was 3 of them, one for each of us. And they were quite skinny. They had long, very tapered fingers. They only, by look at it, had what looked like more of a thumb and 3 fingers. And they just weren't very kind in general. They were not wearing shoes. They did not leave any footprints on our ground. I looked the next morning. I took my dogs out. They had a very good sniff. They were going kind of crazy, circling around the yard, trying to find where the heck these beings had gone to. It was pretty shitty, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can totally see where that would be very uncomfortable. And I'm actually, it kind of angers me because you're supposed to call me when that stuff happens. I will race up there.
I know. And you're only a couple hour drive away, which is nice, and I totally appreciate it. But I really do appreciate it. But, the majority of my encounters aren't with beings like that, though. And that's what I want for people to understand is, when you do approach things from a place of frustration, anger, or fear, you can also contribute to some of these beings reacting in a negative type way. So if I had asked questions to the being and asked, why are you taking us? Where are we going? Who the heck are you? Rather than going into that partially altered state where I was between being compliant with what they're asking me and kind of in that angry state, if I'd asked questions rather than reacting, perhaps they wouldn't have been as aggressive with me and had done more healing on me after they had taken the fetus out. So
I
understand.
Now, with about 90 seconds to go, I want people to understand, because they're listening to you speak very matter of fact about the way it's going and your experiences. But a lot of times when you are speaking, you're not actually speaking, you're channeling what has happened. And I think people need to understand that, the reason why Samantha may not have the emotion in her voice or the phonetics in her voice is because she's actually channeling what had happened.
And
correct?
that's very fair to say. I do channel a lot. You got to remember, clairvoyant psychic trained by Palladians to have their primary capability being psychic abilities is going to view things quite commonly from that more detached state. Dave, you also know that I've had a tremendous amount of sexual abuse happen and physical abuse happen with my contact with Black Ops in particular. And so with that being said, I am able to separate to a degree what I've had happen to me, because if I don't, I can't function as a mother. I won't be able to function as like a pet owner and a homeowner and a business owner. If you don't have that certain degree of detachment, stuff like this will destroy you. And I need for people to understand that when you have a lot of contact, you do have to have a certain degree of separation. Otherwise, you won't be able to do things well.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And you know what? When we come back from the break with Samantha Mowat, we are going to get heavily into 9 years.
Yes.
What happened 9 years ago? It started with a UFO, and it led to aliens in the forest. And it's all real. You may not believe it, but I know it's real because I was there. Spaced Out Radio with Samantha Mowat as our guest continues right after this. Stay tuned. Beautiful. Beauty. Beauty.
Whoop. Good job.
You're a good job.
My job's just to make your job easier. That's all.
Yeah, that you do.
I like your Bigfoot. I don't remember that guy before.
Oh, yes, I'll show you. One of our listeners actually carved that for me.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I was artistic. That'd be so cool. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's incredible. They did such a good job capturing it. Oh, my God. I love the eyes.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's stunning.
Yeah, it is.
It is stunning. And hi, Les Paul Holland. How are you? No, Paramarv, that's all led by the U.S. He's like, wait, Black Ops Encounters? Does the Canadian military do my labs too? No, it all comes from the U.S.
Mm-hmm. They do still work out of Canada, but I can agree with what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. Who else is here? And where'd Dirty Filth go? We lost him. We lost Dirty Filth.
You're funny.
Mm-hmm. He'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be back.
I agree. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to really cover what had happened 9 years ago. I think it's really good to set the stage and help them understand.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
And, I can't believe it's 9 years. Like,
I know.
Where the hell did that go?
Good question. Went by fast.
I just McCreary. Oh, yeah, 9 friggin' years.
You still have to go camping with me.
Well, I have to buy a trailer first.
Sounds good.
So I'm hoping to do that here within the next months.
Perfect.
Oh, he's waiting for his computer to restart. And then we'll make that. You know what? You know what we should do?
What's up?
We should plan a weekend for that and just do an SOR invite.
Sounds good.
If you want to come up and join us, you can. We'll plan the week.
I love that idea.
Come see some aliens with us.
I'll bring my trailer down. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. I have the spot.
Perfect.
I can't guarantee what's going to happen there. But that spot where we had our UFO encounter / Sasquatch encounter last year.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be really hot this year.
Perfect.
Really hot. Yeah. We just pull in there and Kira's going to come.
Awesome.
Kira's gonna come. Yeah.
I'll bring marshmallows.
Oh, yeah.
I love camping. Yeah, I found like when I was writing just draft 2 of my book and I was going through everything, whenever I go camping, I almost always have encounters and physical ones. So I think it's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, Kira, you could stay in the trailer.
That won't stop them.
No, I'm telling you, we are going that spot when you get there. When are you coming down next?
I drive through your way on the 22nd and I come back up on the 29th. So
of this month.
Yeah, I can see you on my way home and stop.
Okay. If you get some time, the snow should be melted by then.
Okay.
We're not allowed in there right now. According to Robin McCrae, my psychic Sasquatch lady.
That's fair.
We are not allowed in there right now.
It's probably baby season.
Babies. That's why.
I would think
so end of April, the snow to that area should be melted. I'll take you for a quick drive there.
Sure.
And when you get there, you'll know.
Ooh.
You'll know.
Sounds good. But I'll have kiddos with me. Just be aware of that. Okay.
That's fine. I don't need to tell you anything because I already know you'll know.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll bring some peanut butter for them.
I got a gifting site.
Good.
Yeah, so curious to see how much has moved over the winter. Hopefully not from snow.
Yeah.
Hey, there's little Timmy Senor. And we got 19 seconds. Thank you, Trisha, Kira, and Random Gee.
Mhm.
Gizmo, Samantha's a little bit north of me. So, yeah. Nonetheless, she comes by and she waves every time. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with our good friend Samantha Mowat. SamanthaMowat.ca is her website, and we're talking about the 9-year anniversary of our friendship. And it all got going with a couple of things.
Mhm.
It started almost nearly exactly 9 years ago right now, where I was driving home over to a friend's house. Pardon me. I was driving to a friend's house to meet my partner. And then I started getting a migraine. And I had this brutal migraine for the 35-minute drive till I pulled into their driveway. I walk in their house and I said, I got a migraine. Don't know how long I'm going to be able to hang out, but I'm just going to go sit on the couch and put a pillow over my eyes to see if things calm down. Well, after about half an hour, I realized that as the pain was subsiding, it started pulsating in different shapes. It started off like pulsating a square in the front of my head, moving over to the right side of my head where it pulsated like a triangle, and then to the left side of my head where it pulsated as a circle. And when the pain subsided, which I've never to this day had a migraine subside that quickly, I all of a sudden got an absolute anxiety attack. And when you suffer from anxiety and depression like I do, and many of you do out there, you know when you're having an anxiety attack. And I turned to my partner and I said, I got to go outside into the backfield right now. Right now. She was like, can I come? I said, no, you have to stay inside with our son, who was only about 10 months old at that point. And then the lady of the house says to her hubby, Dave is picking something up. We need to go outside right now. And it's their property. And I looked at her and I said, he's not invited. He can't come. Why would I tell someone they're not invited onto their own property? Still to this day, that one screws me up, Samantha. But the lady of the house, who was very connected in a good way at that point, her and I walked behind the house about 50, 60 feet to an old horse fence. Now, our friends had 10 acres. There were only 2 houses on their street. Their elderly neighbors who were in their late 60s, maybe early 70s, had 6.5 acres. And both properties were horseshoed by forest, a ravine, and deer trails and creeks. So the lady in the house and I go outside, and it's a dark, misty night. And if you're from the West Coast, you will understand what I mean by a dark, dreary, misty night, because we all live in the West Coast in a natural rainforest. And it was about 10 o'clock at night, and you could cut the tension with a knife. And the lady looks over to me and she goes, well, they called you outside. Why don't you talk to them? Well, what do I say? She goes, I don't know. Just say something. I said the first thing that came to my mind. Out of God's peace, love, and light, you called me outside. Can you please show us where you are? And from the neighbor's back field by the forest, the entire tree line in between the two properties lit up like a Christmas tree. Like a Christmas tree. The brightest white light I had ever seen, and yet it wasn't hurting my eyes. And being, in a situation like that, you have to be skeptical. I'm looking for shadows. I'm listening for noise. I'm listening for anything that would make this look human. And I'm thinking, okay, could they have heard me from about 150 yards away? Well, there's no way, because I was talking in the same volume as I am right now. And I'm listening if there's laughter or anything. Nothing. After about 30 seconds, the lights go off. And our jaws drop, and she goes, do it again. So I said, if you are of alien existence, out of God's peace, love, and light, can you please turn your lights back on? Boom. Lights come back on my command. And I swore. And I was dumbfounded. The lights were brighter through the trees. The white light was just as incredible. And in between the two properties, there was a tree line of about 60, 70-foot trees that separated the two properties. And I kind of moved over to my right. And I started looking to see if there was something, like, what did this look like? Where was this coming from? What was happening? And that's when I saw this blue cylinder standing vertically about 20 to 30 feet tall. And there was this black cloud that was rotating counterclockwise from the base of it right up to about halfway, and then all the way back down. After 30 seconds, the lights went back off. The lady who I was with says, let's go over there. I said, no. She goes, why not? I said, because I've seen fire in the sky, and I'm not going back into your house as suspect number one if this thing takes you. So she resisted, but she stayed with me. This will happen again 5 days later. And she goes, well, see if they'll do it again. So I said, just so I know I'm not crazy, out of God's peace, love, and light, will you turn your lights on one final time? Boom. Lights come back on. Everything is the same. There's the blue cylinder. There's the black cloud rotating counterclockwise. And then after 30 seconds, the lights start turning off and on, off and on, off and on, off and on. And you see, my partner and I, when we used to sit on our patio, we'd watch these satellites come over our house. And we always thought it was really cool when they would expand their lights really, really bright over top of our house, and then they would black out. I always thought satellites are iridium flares, or satellites have lights, whatever it may be, until that craft landed on the ground. So we tried for about another 5-8 minutes to try and get this thing to communicate with us. It was gone. There was no sound, no nothing. And as we turned to return to the house, up in the clouds about 200 feet above us, there was this orange orb poking its head through the clouds. And we watched it. And then it sunk back into the cloud, and that same white light that we saw on the ground rippled through the clouds like a lightning bolt, and everything went dark. And that was 9 years ago tonight. Now, Sam, 5 days later, I meet you.
Yeah.
And we were told the day before that this gorgeous little pixie redhead, quote unquote, who's a lifelong ET contactee, was going to be there on, that would have been a Wednesday. And she, I didn't know you at this time, was going to tell us her stories. And we arrive. It's about 1:15 when we arrive. You were already there at the farm. And You ladies start having all this girl chat. You're doing your tea thing, and here's old Dave pacing around.
Mhm.
And I caught your attention. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, it was fine, Dave. I was actually happy to be having tea with them. I was really excited to see your baby, which made me really happy because he was the cutest little thing, crawling like a little army guy at that time. And I remember when I was driving over to our friend's house, feeling the vibration of craft up above the forest, and I wasn't sure if I was having an encounter that night or if I was going to be having an encounter later that day. All I knew is I was feeling ET energy, and judging by the direction from where she lived versus where I lived in Mission, we were actually fairly close as far as the Google Map view is concerned. And so when I remember coming into that place and just kind of getting relaxed and getting the kids all situated, I remember asking if something was going on or what was up because you seemed like you were really focused on something and I was curious.
So I hadn't slept in almost 5 days at that point because
Mm,
the journalist in me had a
yeah,
million questions, and that was my first time back at the farm. And I
mm,
didn't want to be inside. I wanted to go look. Okay, this is where the craft was. Now I'm looking at it at daylight in the afternoon.
mhm,
This is where the craft was. This
mhm,
is where it was sitting. Okay, where was it? How big was it compared to the trees that separated the property?
mhm,
Okay, was there any burn marks on the ground? I'm thinking everything. And then you said to me, you want to go outside, don't you?
mhm.
And I said, yes, I do. And you asked, well, do you mind if I come with you? And I said, not at all,
Yeah.
because you were picking up the craft.
Yeah, I felt the energy earlier. I was curious if they were around or not. And I knew that it was fine to leave my kids for a little bit with these people because their energy felt safe and I knew they'd be okay. They were happily playing. So I didn't mind going with you. And I felt like it was okay to make that suggestion. I knew that I was in no danger from you, even though you were a man I just met.
Well, I should hope so, because I'm pretty soft and lighthearted,
Yeah.
you know, and all that. But, and so we go outside and I show
Mhm.
you where the craft was in conjunction to where we were standing. What did you start to pick up there?
I remember feeling the energy that was there. It felt like ET craft has a very distinct vibration where it feels very different than that of, let's say, dead people or spirit guides or the aboriginals that had frequently been on that property. Because there was when, how can I explain this properly? When you're feeling the vibrational resonance of something, you can almost feel it in different parts of your body and has certain densities to it. And for me, when I feel a lot of ET craft, it's very familiar for me. So it often feels very homey, very almost like going to a location that's quite familiar to you on more of an energetic level. It has that type of sensation. The vibration was quick moving. It felt still technological. It still felt very light. It felt fine to be around. It didn't feel as though it had any negative connotations or danger being emitted from it. So I knew that we were okay to be in that region. And I remember you stopping me a few times, even as the dogs were, running around in the field and kind of going over towards, just towards the horse area, and then over towards the neighbor dog had came as well as the three dogs that were there in total. So it was kind of, or pardon me, three on the property. Plus, I believe the neighbor dog Shadow, I believe it was, had also come over as
There,
well.
there were four. Two were our
Yeah,
friends, and two were mine.
yeah, because there was their dog plus the neighbor's dog Shadow plus your two.
Yeah.
Didn't explain it well. But one thing that I noticed when you and I were stopping to feel everything is that when we were on the farm side, yes, there before we got to the fence in particular, the energy there felt very protected. It felt like there was energetic protection in place around the house and the pond and the driveway type area. But when we started to go over towards the fence, it was almost like the beings that had landed there in the woods that you and our friend had been in communication with through the light show, so to speak. It felt like they had abided by the energy protection that she had in place and parked just outside of her protection. And that's where you and I had stopped to really feel the energy.
I remember you
Mhm.
saying to me after about 15, 20 minutes around walking around the
Yeah,
farmyard, I remember you saying to me, do you want to go in the forest?
yeah.
And I said, yep. And then you were like, we're probably going to see something, right? And I went, I know. And then you said, but from what I know, ETs don't like dogs, so I'm
They
not
don't.
sure we'll actually see anything. So we tried to shoo the dogs back to the house unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
And then the dogs seemed to know that we were going towards the fence line, that's where we wanted to go, because every time they ran back, they started running past us towards the forest.
Yeah.
So Samantha and I just basically said, you know what? Screw this. Let's just continue on and see what happens. So we get about 50 yards into the forest.
Mhm.
The dogs have already run ahead of us
Yeah.
into the forest. And we get about 50 yards in, and Samantha gets this perplexed look on her face, looking around and all this.
I could feel them.
And you stopped me and you said, Dave, where's the dogs? And all 4 dogs were gone.
Well, they did disappear on us pretty quickly, and we didn't even notice them leaving, which 4 dogs, 3 that are quite large, and one that was tiny but very spirited. You would be able to hear them kind of plowing through the woods, especially in all the underbrush. And I remember I walked over. Yeah,
How I miss my little Zero.
she was a cutie. But I'd walked over towards your ravine because I had felt the energy. And I remember you had called me back because you wanted for me to come back this way. And you'd mentioned that this was Sasquatch territory and I hadn't had any interaction with them at that time. And so you suggested that perhaps I come back this way rather than not necessarily make them upset, but make them uncomfortable or make me uncomfortable, which I did appreciate you having that concern, seeing as I was someone you had just met. And I remember when you and I were stopping and looking around, I remember you felt like you were excited but nervous all at the same time, which is pretty interesting. And me being the ridiculously short person that I am, of course, I went and stood on a stump to try to look around because when you're 5'2", 5'3", you can't see a lot in our forests. Not when you're that low. So I got up on a stump that was about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet higher. It wasn't a whole lot higher, but higher enough. And I remember finding the beings at that time, and I remember getting you to look at them.
Yes, I will never forget the words out of your mouth. Dave, I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to look that way. And you pointed north, and then and tell me what you see. So here's old Davey, Mr. Tough Guy, takes a deep breath, turns, looks. Samantha, what is that? Samantha, what is that? I was using profanity at that point. Samantha, what is that? Samantha, what is that? And it just repeated like that for a couple of minutes. I don't believe
nervous and excited.
Nervous. It changed my life. Here I got a UFO who just landed 5 days previous. I was not prepared for this.
No.
Not prepared whatsoever. And I remember going through my mind. It was like somebody took my book of life, a complete stranger, and ripped it out of my hands and basically told me everything I'd been taught up until that point was wrong.
That's quite a hard thing to have handed to you. A complete reevaluation of self, as we talked about the awakening earlier.
And I remember going through that, I'm a believer of God, and I remember going through my mind. I wasn't scared of the beings. I was absolutely petrified that everything I had been taught up until that point was now garbage.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, you know what? Out of all the years of my life, I've been taught God is good, devil bad. If you're good, you go up. If you're bad, you go down. And not a single hockey coach, baseball coach, teacher, relative, mentor, elder, whatever, and ever told me what to do when you were face to face with a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial 200 feet in front of you. And that's what it was. I saw the head. I saw the neck. I saw the body. Saw the torso. Did not see the arms. Did not see the legs.
That's okay.
And it was light tan in color. Like if you put way too much cream in your coffee.
Yeah.
And That's when the second one that I did not see started telepathically communicating with you.
Well, yeah, it's pretty easy. But you got to remember, Dave, these are Andromedans. And when we're looking at this group in particular, like any group of extraterrestrial multidimensional, you're going to have good, you're going to have neutral, you're going to have bad. And these ones, fortunately for us, had our best interest at heart. They were open to communication. They were open to physical contact. They were respectful by not walking forward. They had guided the dogs to go in a different direction. That way you and I could have that peaceful interaction with them. And they had asked if we had wanted to come over as well. That's why I was getting the telepathic suggestion of let's go over, let's go see them. And I remember you looking at me like, don't you dare.
Well, what am I supposed to do? I remember you saying to me, they've asked us to come over.
Yeah.
They said that they're not here to harm us, not here to take us.
Yeah.
But what threw me for the loop, because
Mhm.
remember, my whole experience with this stuff is the movie Fire in the Sky at this point.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I'm going through my mind is Travis Walton getting zapped by the UFO and then taken at that point. And all I can think about is when the one said to you, but we are worried about the man, or we are concerned about the man's health.
Yeah, your heart. They were going to have a heart attack.
And I am looking at you, and I'm looking at me, and I'm thinking, okay, you're not a man.
No.
I think I'm a man. I know I'm a man, and there's only two of us here. So they had to be talking about me.
Yeah.
And that threw me for a wrench, because I was thinking Fire in the Sky. I didn't know at that point that Hollywood had really put a lot of makeup on that movie into from the reality of what happened.
Yeah.
And that's when you said, let's go down the path.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is not happening. This is not happening. And you were like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you started going, and I literally begged you, please do not leave me.
Hey, I've tried to maintain your pride for years. You're the one who's sharing that.
No, I can fully admit now, okay, that I begged you to stay with me.
You did put your arm, like your hand like this, like, no, type thing. And that's okay. Dave, you had a completely reasonable and logical reaction to this. You really did. Here you are encountering beings that are completely different than anything that you understand, completely changing your paradigm, your perspective, and your understanding of life, the universe, and everything. You've reacted in such a logical, intelligent way. I can't blame you at all for behaving the way you did or for discouraging us from moving forward with that. Given your understanding at the time, it makes complete sense, don't you think?
It does.
Yeah.
I wish it would that scenario would happen again.
Yeah.
I would go.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And I would need to go. I have to go.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, just staring at them, like people always ask me, well, what did you guys do then? We just stared at them and took it in. Mm-hmm. We took in the moment, and my eyes never left that big dude.
No.
Never left him. And to this day, I wish I would have seen the second one. I wish I had, and when we come back from the break, we're going to describe the second one. We're going to describe what happened after and how this has changed. Well, literally created an incredible bond and friendship between two complete strangers from two different paths of life, all brought together by extraterrestrial contact. And to this day, Samantha Mowat is literally one of the most important people in my life to this day. I trust her with absolutely everything that goes on, not only on a radio level, but on a personal friendship, family level. SamanthaMowat.ca is her website. When we return, we continue the 9-year anniversary of the UFOs and aliens in the forest right here on Spaced Out Radio. Hard to believe. 9 years ago. Wow. Where has time gone? Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 2 next. All right, Dirty Filth, it's your turn.
And the cat. I like seeing your cat. I was getting so excited.
That's Blob.
He's cute.
Yes,
Yeah.
good old Blob.
Yeah.
Sometimes she hangs out. Sometimes she just piles in the back of the couch.
Aw.
She's old.
She's beautiful. Her little paws up there. So cute.
Hi, Diesel Girl. And who else is coming? David S. Who else is joining us here?
Your cartoon's funny.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'll be right back. You guys can play.
Sounds good, Dave. Have fun.
It's
I like
good
your
to get out
cryptid.
and duck.
Pardon? That's good.
That's how Dave's socks and keys go missing.
That's fair. I think it's funny. How long have you been doing art for?
I've been drawing cartoons my entire life.
Nice. Well, you certainly have a gift in it. You convey everything quite nicely.
You know, it never looks the same from my mind to the paper.
No? How's it different?
It's a little more defined.
Like sharper edges type thing?
I guess that's the way to explain it, but I just keep working on it. And
That's fair.
that's kind of the problem if you have an artistic ability. You're never as happy as you'd want to be with it.
I could see that. I don't know. I can
I
definitely
enjoy doing it, but
No, I think you're great at it.
thanks. Come on, Blob. Ow.
You okay?
Yeah, cat just decided to jump back up and pierce me with all their little cat claws.
Nice. How old is she?
Ooh, I think 15 or 16 human years.
Aw. She's getting up
She
there.
was
though.
found. She was found half frozen to death in a hay bale.
Oh, well, good job rescuing her. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Poor
Her,
baby.
her name's actually Lyran.
Oh, that'd be a pretty one.
Yes, and mostly because she was just lying around lazy and nobody
Yeah.
expected her to live.
Mm-hmm.
And then here she is, like 16 years later.
That sounds about right with cats. They're pretty resilient creatures.
Oh yeah, she's can't really tell, but her ears are all frostbitten off too, so they're kind of rounded. Everyone goes, "Oh, that's really cute. Her ears are so cute." Yeah, it was frostbite, and they kind of changed their tune. But hey, you know what? Blob's still here, and I'm happy. I love Blob.
And now she's got character. We'll take it.
Oh, definitely.
It's cuter when things have character.
I was like saying that. People go, oh,
Yeah.
it's this is wrong, or this thing or that thing's wrong, or whatever. You go, well, it's got character now.
I think it's good to change our perspective on faults and kind of view them a little bit differently, right? I don't know. I love cats. I've got 3 of them, and they definitely keep it entertaining.
We've got 2 new kittens, the gremlin and the gargoyle. And
Ooh.
they're little hellions right now. They were born in the winter, so they finally get a chance to go outside. So everything's all new to them.
Yeah.
On the plus side, they get all tuckered out after running around outside. So during the evening,
Yeah.
they're all passed out on the couch, and I don't have to be pestered by them. And Blob is snoring now.
That's cute. I'm jealous. I want to let my cats outside. My oldest cat is 23 and has Alzheimer's, so he can't go outside. He'll get lost. And we've got a fox that lives in our neighborhood, so it will eat the cats. I can't let them out.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't live out in the boonies
Yeah.
like you do, so it's a little bit more difficult.
Well, I'm in town. It's just lots of animals around here. Although my
You get
next
a lot
house
of
is
coyotes
wooded.
come up from the
Yeah.
river valley.
You know, I think I've only seen 1 coyote, maybe 2. I don't get to see them very often. That'd be pretty cool, though.
They're pretty brazen here in Edmonton now.
Ah, sounds about right. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm back.
Hello, Dave.
Hello. Bill.
Talking about cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fun.
George Jungle, welcome to SOR chat. And who else is Jenny? How are you? Good to see you. Peter Thogerson, welcome to SOR chat. I will get to some questions with Samantha, and probably in the second half hour of this show, or of this hour coming up. Pardon me. Nice comment, Nicole. The phenomena brings peoples together. Gotta love the love and light. Absolutely.
Definitely agree about that one. I think it's
Oh,
cool. Like, it's fun learning about the things people have experienced, especially like ancient stories too, right? So cool.
absolutely. Pay Parker, how are you? Yes, my hair is a little wild tonight. Hey, Yumi Doll, how are you? DOD, good to see you. Sovereign Coyotes tried to communicate with me in late October 2022. Got the audio recorded. That is cool. That is cool. They were trying to lure you out, man. I hear them around my place. All right, here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us, and good to earn your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Calvin is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight is our good friend Samantha Mowat, and her website, samanthamowat.ca, and we appreciate you checking us on out. Samantha was there 9 years ago as we celebrate my UFO encounter with a landing, and then 5 days later, an incredible meetup with Samantha and extraterrestrials in the forest. And Samantha, thank you so much for joining us once again on this historic personal night for me and you.
It's my pleasure, Dave. It's always fun.
I want to ask you, while this was going on in the forest, a lot of people, and I mentioned this right before the break, a lot of people will always ask me, well, what did you guys do when you decided not to go down that path? Yeah. We just stood there and watched and soaked it all in. What was going through your mind at that point?
I don't know. I'd have to go back to my journal notes and honestly read them. I know it sounds really bad, but Dave, since you and I have had our physical encounter, I've had hundreds of encounters since then, ranging from psychic to astral to physical. So I'm sorry, I'd have to look in my journal to find out exactly what I had thought. But I remember focusing a little bit on their concern for your health and not wanting to walk forward if it meant you doing having a heart attack and you having to do CPR.
Yeah, that would have sucked. I'm not going to lie. That would have completely sucked if that had happened. You know, one of the things that did happen though, right shortly after that, was you and I started getting the feeling that we were supposed to go to a different part of the forest.
Yes, we did.
To find and see more ETs.
Yeah.
So we left those guys after about 15 minutes. And we walked to a different trail to a different part of the forest. You take it. Go ahead.
Dave, I think it's important that we mention to people how the ETs were standing square to us and we were standing square facing them, and it was almost like a bit of a standoff, like no one's moving, no one's doing anything. And so we felt like we should be going to a different area then. That was something that you and I had talked about in that moment, but I'm not sure if we've ever mentioned, is the fact that it wasn't that we got bored so much as we felt like we were being compelled to go into that other area.
I absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. And so we walked to this other part of the forest. And for me, it was like we were looking around to see if there was any ETs there.
Mhm.
We never saw any, but it was like one of those things where, you know, you see something move out of your corner of your eye, you turn and look, and it's a bird, or it's a tree branch that's blowing in the wind, or something along those lines. Do you
Mhm.
recall if you picked up any actually in that area?
Yeah, we actually had quite a few of them surrounding us. It was almost like they were forming a circle around us in their cloaked form, which is when they take the vibration of what is around them and they almost like use a mirror type effect to show what's around them. Same like smart suits or those smart blankets that have the mini cameras that can show you what's behind you and show that image even though you're having the blanket in front of you. ET cloaking is very similar, but it's done with the mind rather than technology itself. And we did have several beings that were near us, several feet away, kind of surrounding us in a bit of a circle, feeling our energy, feeling if we'd be open to having more of that contact. I think they were trying to pay attention to you and see how you would handle if one of them did step out from behind a tree or to start appearing more in a visible state.
Yeah, we were there for about 10 minutes,
Mhm.
and then that feeling seemed to die
Disappear.
off.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the original location,
Mhm.
and there was nothing there. They had
Yeah,
left.
they left.
Yeah, kind of like, okay, we're sick of you now. We're bored of you. We're out. And so we walked back towards the farmyard.
Yeah.
And as we got, once again, about 50 yards from the gate, all 4 dogs came running out from the farm to meet us.
Yeah.
And
They
we were like,
did.
well, there's the dogs. What do you think? What do you think the dogs were told?
Go to the house. There's food at the house. There's entertainment at the house. Stay at the house. Just telepathic suggestion, keeping them out of the ET's hair. Like we talked about previously, a lot of ETs aren't necessarily fond of dogs or even animals in general when it comes to pets. Because if you look at the way of the mind of like an animal that is undomesticated, how it behaves is very instinctual and very different than, say, the programming and training that we do with our domesticated animals, be it your birds, your cats, your dogs, your whatever house pets you have. They have a different behavioral pattern set. And with dogs in particular, they're extremely protective of their humans. So when we're looking at the situation here, the ETs have a very strong scent that's very different than what a lot of the scents of the forest are, that a lot of beings such as the dogs would be unfamiliar with. So of course, the dogs would react more hostile towards, oh my God, the cat, more hostile towards the ETs if they were to allow for the dogs to stay in that area if you and I had decided to walk up to them. So I can't blame them for giving the beings, the dogs in particular, the telepathic suggestion of go to the house, get away from us. It was a safety precaution of their own.
I get that, and I understand. Now, one of the
Yeah.
controversial pieces to this
Mhm.
was when you and I walked
Yeah.
back into the farmyard
Mhm.
before we went out inside.
Yeah.
I recall you stopping me and you saying to me, and there is a little bit of, I remember a few years ago, you actually kind of got mad at me about this because you didn't have recall about this.
If I
But
channel half the time, I don't.
you stopped me in the middle of the farmer's field, okay, and you said to me, Dave, have you ever been taken before? And
Yeah.
I said, no. And you then told me that there was a good chance that now it would happen
Mhm.
because of this contact. And you said, if it does happen, don't worry about it. It doesn't hurt. And that's where you got mad at me, is when I said it doesn't hurt. And then you said, just let them do their thing. They'll get you right back and you won't even know. And you and I remember, because you never really get upset with me.
Yeah.
But this part really perturbed you because you had no recall of that conversation.
In all due fairness, it's very easy for the beings, in particular when they're doing telepathic suggestion with someone, to slightly occupy the human that they were doing telepathic suggestion with. And for instance, Dave, I was just having a telepathic conversation with those beings. So it'd be very easy for them to slip even into my own mind these phrases, these words, to make it so that you had that understanding and awareness. And so chances are it was just one of the beings speaking through me. And that's where I would get annoyed because, as we discussed a moment ago, half the time on a channel, I don't remember what the heck we're talking about. And that's also why with my clients, I tell them, record it because I'm not going to remember what we talk about. Channeling's like that.
It was interesting, to say the least. We walked back to the house.
Yeah.
The ladies who were in the house were like, what happened?
Mhm.
We told them.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Mhm.
That was that. I mean,
We had tea.
it's a blah ending. Yeah. But that was it. And then, you came over. We started, working on channeling with you and me. And then I remember one time you were over at our house for tea, I think. And we were all standing on my patio, my daughters included,
Yeah.
and we were watching UFOs hover over top of and landing on top of Mount Baker.
Yeah. Very common in BC. There's lots of ET activity. People do just need to pay attention to what's going on around them. In every city of the world, you will see ETs coming and going with craft every single day. That's something people need to be aware of. You just have to be looking in the right direction at the right time. And, I think it's wonderful to share those visual UFO sightings with your children because it opens up the conversation with them to help them to be able to recognize that this is a real phenomenon.
Well, the one thing that I loved about that night, that evening when we were watching the lights on Mount Baker,
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall this,
Hmm.
but there was if you lived where we lived, you would know that the flight path to Vancouver International Airport was behind us. And the
Yeah.
flight path flying out of Vancouver International Airport would be in front of us.
Mhm.
And our town of Mission, British Columbia was
Yeah.
in between.
Mhm.
And I recall that night, and I don't know if you do or not, but there was this contrail of this aircraft going, instead of east-west like the Vancouver flights,
Yeah.
it was going north-south at a real high rate of speed. There was no lights on it, but weirdly enough, no sound whatsoever. And it was ripping through the sky as those 4 UFOs were sitting on Mount Baker.
Yeah. Chances are that one's government trying to see who's going on and who's coming and going ET-wise. Because one thing that I do want to mention in relation to you, Dave, is I don't know if you told your audience recently that you were someone who's always been very fascinated by aviation. You love going to the air shows. You have a strong passion when it comes to things that are flying. And so that's why you are aware of the flight paths in the incoming and the outgoing planes in particular. Very important to mention.
And the other thing that was weird going back to that day,
Yeah.
because you picked this up, once we left that forest, all of a sudden, right then and there, we heard aircraft again.
Yeah, we did. It was so quiet when we were having that encounter. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's like we're in a bubble. One thing we should mention to your audience is when you're having physical contact with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals, they have this certain type of technological capability where it creates almost like a dome or bubble around a small area that limits the amount of ingoing/outgoing noise. So let's say you're within that bubble, you won't really be able to hear the highway traffic or the sound of your neighbor's cars coming and going or things that are occurring outside the bubble. And the same thing can be said for the outside the bubble, being able to perceive what's happening within. It's a really interesting thing that they do.
This led to September 30th, of 2014, where I was taken that night.
Oh, right.
By the little gray dudes who put me on the table. I woke up on the table and I was face down with my face kind of in a donut, like a massage table. And I picked my head up looking to the right. There was nobody there. It was
Mhm.
dark, but over on my left, I knew there was lights there. And when I turned my head, there were 3 little gray dudes standing there.
Mhm.
Because I woke up with the feeling of like children's fingers running through my hair.
Well, it's important to mention that the Greys do have very delicate bone structure in their hands. Their fingers are very long. They can be very similar to children's in the sense that, they have very thin, artistic type fingers. Like I have very long fingers for my hand size, and theirs are longer than ours again. And so it can be very similar to children's fingers just by feeling alone.
Right. And that's where I felt them cut open the back of my head. And the first guy was at my left of my shoulder, and he was pulling the skin forward.
Yeah.
And then I heard this saw. To me, it sounded like a saw kind of cutting in to the back of my head. And then the second guy was trying to get his fingers into that hole to lift it up as the third guy was jamming in. And I remember that hurting.
Mhm.
I remember that hurting until your voice popped into my head saying, Dave, it doesn't hurt.
Mhm.
Just let it happen and everything will be fine. And from the time I heard your voice, and now knowing what I know that was an implanted voice of yours. But the one thing I recall about that is as soon as I heard your voice, it started to tickle. And I started kind of giggling a little bit.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden I had the urge where I had to go to the bathroom bad. And that's where I started yelling at them like, guys, you got to hurry up. I'm going to pee all over your table. I'm going to make a mess here. I don't want to do that.
That
You
wouldn't
gotta
be a big deal.
But that's when I think they realized that I was actually awake.
Yeah.
Because I was screaming prior to that, and then I heard your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started tickling. But I remember the pain and the sound and everything. I could still hear the sound. Okay. And all of a sudden they started rushing. And as soon as next thing I know, I wake up, I'm lying on top of my bed with my face in my pillow.
Yeah.
And my head is throbbing like I'm having the worst hangover ever.
Mm-hmm.
I run to the bathroom and take the best pee of my life. Still to this day, the greatest pee of my life. And that was it.
That's funny.
And I remember talking to you the next day, and you're like, yeah, well, that happens. And,
Mhm.
Wasn't me. No, you weren't there, but that was the start.
In all due fairness, Dave, you got to remember the Andromedans that we had just seen are probably in some degree in communication with the group of small grays that you just had that experience with. Because a lot of the people, when they look at ETs, are like, well, how are there Andromedans and reptilians and mantis and Pleiadians and all these things? They don't realize that a lot of these groups, the subgroups, interact. And so even though you and I had just seen the Andromedans the other day, here you are having an encounter with the grays who are doing the physical assessment of you wanting to, okay, this human's kind of open to us. Yeah, he's a little bit afraid, but he might be good for us to have contact with in the future. So let's put an implant in him because he's not already implanted so that we can, find him and monitor his health and kind of check in on him, things of that nature.
Boy, am I the epitome of health for a human being. That's for sure.
That's
Just
good.
the epitome of health. Oh my gosh.
If that's sarcasm, you need to make a little post-it or something because I'm not good with sarcasm.
I know that was total sarcasm.
Okay.
Total sarcasm. But yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's weird because 9 years later, I could talk about it just as a casual story, but back then it was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to open up to that's what happened. That's what was going on.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff continued, and then I ended up being taken more and more. And I haven't been taken a lot. I think I've got recall in about 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, anything outside of that, I know it's been a lot more than that. Thanks to yourself and Geraldine Orozco for helping me with that. But I mean, why do we not have recall, at least glimpses of every time we've been taken?
It wouldn't be beneficial for most people to have total recall of all their contact or even glimpses of it. It could impede how you live your day-to-day life and cause you to hyper-focus upon the extraterrestrial multidimensional interactions within your life. Think of it this way, Dave. These encounters, this cluster of encounters has shifted your life to this extent, which is huge. You're a completely different person than you were 15, 20 years ago because of it. If you knew that you had hundreds of encounters since then, on average 1 a month since you had that major experience with the Andromedans, would you not be feeling kind of overwhelmed if you knew exactly what happened or even had a very good idea about what happened? Do you think you'd be able to function in the normal world?
I don't know, because I know people who are having troubles functioning in the normal world.
Dave, I'm not normal. You know how not normal I am? You have a very good idea of how not normal I am. Think of it this way. I have spent the last 4 years writing out my book from encounters from the 1980s all the way up to 2020. And I've had to take the majority of the last 2.5 years off because I can't handle typically working and dealing with my ET encounters because there's that much to, figure out and understand and process and deal with. I have been very lucky to be able to afford to have that luxury. Most people are not in that situation. And I think that's also why the beings do not give most people that many memories back. This is part of my soul agreement and my job, and it needs to happen. That's why I'm given those memories. I don't think it would be good for a lot of people to have that because they'd be drinking a lot more. Dave, in the entire time you've known me, have I ever said, Dave, let's go get a drink? Have I ever? No. Since going into so much depth in my book, I've averaged a bottle of wine a week.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot for me.
Wow. Party girl.
Okay.
Party girl.
But think of how much that is contact-wise, the sexual aspect, the mental, physical, emotional health aspect. There's a lot to it. And Dave, I don't think most people could handle that. They'd be high or drunk trying to deal with everything. And I can't blame them.
I can't blame them either, as we got about 2 minutes to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. When we return from the break, we will get to audience questions regarding this. But for you, in looking back 9 years, and what you've gone through in the last 9 years and what I've gone through in the last 9 years,
yeah.
I mean, how have you changed? What has changed in your perception of everything?
Honestly, I'm a lot less peace, love, and light. I am a lot less tolerant of some of the beings who come to see me. I put them in their place very quickly. And if I like them, I'm very nice to them. And if not, I tell them to leave much faster than I ever did when I was younger. I was an exceptionally nice person when you met me. And I honestly cannot say the same thing about myself anymore. I'm not. I'm actually quite jaded with some of the things and the memories I've had come back, Dave. How can you not be when you have some of these things happen?
Oh, I get you. I mean, do you think that you've lost control of what is happening to you from the being?
No, I don't feel like I've lost control. I know the beings are very unhappy with me for having any alcohol in my body because I didn't drink any alcohol for years. And they're quite annoyed at me. And they're displeased about that, but that's okay. It's a bit of a teenage rebellion having a glass of wine now. But I asked them a few months ago, I told them, if you do not give me a bit of a break, I'm at my breaking point. I will be useless to you. So either you give me a break or you're not going to be able to have my help. And they have given me a break outside of some healing things that I've needed. So I do have a good rapport and relationship with most of the beings. And they've told me I have until the summer for my break, and then it's back to my normal life.
Oh, fun. Just in time for you and Dave to go camping.
It'll be fun.
Wonderful. Yeah, gonna bring down them aliens. Gonna bring them on down and shake some hands, kiss some babies, share a hot dog on the fire. You know how it goes. That's what we're gonna do.
And it's worth asking. They may like hot dogs.
They may. Samantha Mowat, we have her for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. 9th anniversary of my UFO landing. Hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. Hey, because of that, it all led to this radio show starting in November of that year. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned.
That little guy is so cute in the corner. Oh my god.
Which one?
They're so cute.
This one?
No! Whoever that is in the bottom left corner. The little guy. The comment the DOD or Candy asked first to say non-humans are here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hockey and being gentle is not normal.
That's
They're trying to change that in Canada. Trying to change that.
In my kids' divisions, there's no fighting, no body checking, any of that jazz. So
They're too young yet.
yeah,
They're too young yet.
that's okay.
Got to wait till junior A now.
What is junior A?
16 to 20.
Okay, should be interesting.
Yeah. And Dave's squeaky nose. Yeah. Blame hockey for that one. Wish the aliens would come take me to fix my nose.
You could ask them to.
Barely breathe out of it. I don't know. I can't recall the last time I've been taken.
You're still able to ask them. Just send out telepathic messages. Come fix my nose. Come fix my nose. Come fix my nose. It works.
Yeah. Hi, Tamisha. How are you?
Mhm.
Let's see what Dirty Filth drew here. Hold on.
It's funny, right?
I need my teddy bear and blankie. Hi, Dave. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
He does such a good job, honestly.
He does. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is.
You know what? Through the entire show, it's been sounding like your computer is trying to dial something.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've got nothing on.
It is so weird. It's been happening through the entire show.
Like, Dave, I'm looking. I've got like nothing on in the background. There's nothing up.
Oh, everybody in the audience has noticed. Everybody.
I am so sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. This is the same computer I've used every time.
Oh, I know.
There's a noise, Dave.
Huh? Is it
There's
yours?
a noise. I haven't heard.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any noise.
All right.
I've been on mute.
Donna Spencer says we've heard it too. Pixie Lara says it's very strange sounding. Joe says just heard it. It's like the alien chitter. Alien chitter. Susie B sounds like a messenger. Yeah, it sounds like a Facebook Messenger call, but you don't have Facebook.
No. I've got. Guys, I'm sorry. I have no idea.
Oh yeah.
I haven't heard anything, Dave.
Next time.
Oh yeah, almost everybody's heard it. If you read the message.
ET phone home.
Yep.
All I can do is use one of my other laptops in the future. I'm sorry, I have no idea.
No, it sounds cool because it sounds very alien. Sounds very alien. So just let it be.
I feel bad because it's probably like irritating for people.
No, it's very quiet. It's very quiet.
Okay. Oh, look at her go.
And random guy who's a redhead himself says never trust a ginger.
We bite. That's why.
JSCO, how are you?
That's funny.
Oh yeah, the back of my every time I tell that bloody story about the implant, the back of my head just starts aching. Every time.
I wonder why. Like a lot of my implants don't feel weird. The one on my hip feels kind of off once in a while, but that's about it. I wonder why you have it being painful.
I don't know. It doesn't. It's not painful. It's like it gives me this reminder that it's there.
You know, Dave, I think you should probably focus on that with one of your episodes. Is the different types of alien implants that your guests, or not your guests, but even your audience members have had. Find out about the types of things they've had. Because it'd be very interesting to find out.
That would be cool. Mac Geek, how are you? Beelzebrad, good to see you.
Cute.
Good times. Good times. We got about just over 1 minute here.
Okie dokie. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm sick of drinking water, but I'll do it every day.
Why
How are you?
Why don't you buy like an essential oil that's a flavorful one that way you could drink it? They have
Because
edible essentials.
because I love cold water, ice
Mm.
cold.
Yeah.
That was weird.
What?
All my lights are on in my studio, and I just had a light flash right in front of my door.
Don't know. Maybe you got somebody.
Probably. You know
Mm.
how it goes.
I
Watch for
agree.
the orbs, people. Thank you tonight to Trisha, Kira, Random Gee, Yum Yum, Gizmo, and Thomas for the super chats. Oh, okay. It's a light acting up.
Okay.
It just died off. Okay, Linda Bennett, how are you? Super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us in tonight about UFOs and aliens. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go once again, final half hour, Samantha Mowat, 9 years of friendship with this young lady. And it's funny because I keep looking older and she keeps looking younger. I don't
Aliens.
get it. I don't get it. You know, we're definitely Beauty and the Beast, and I'm not going to say which one's which because I don't want to hurt her feelings. But nonetheless, we love her around here. SamanthaMowat.ca is her website. Now, Samantha, let's get to some audience questions here regarding this event that we've been talking about all night long. Redneck is asking, do men ever get taken for a hybrid project?
Yes, actually, men and women are taken for hybridization. Quite commonly, hybridization starts quite young. So when you're in things such as kindergarten and elementary school, it is predetermined typically who it is you're going to be breeding with. You will meet up on craft with these people who are similar in age within a 5-year span of each other. And when you reach teenagehood, you start breeding with those people. And these hybrids are quite commonly raised together on craft. I've met several of my hybridization mates that are men in person, even after, meeting them on craft for many, many years. And it's very funny because you'll meet them and be like, you're familiar, how did I know you? And then you both realize like, oh, that's how I know you. We have babies together. It's quite common, actually. I'd say 50-50 split for men and women.
I would say so too, because one doesn't work without the other.
No, but I mean, like, Dave, you would think, okay, well, do they need one man and then have like a harem of women? Well, no, they're actually looking for diversity when it comes to the certain genetic components. They're looking for what is the best way to have the hybrids be mentally stable, physically capable, healthy. How can we have a good mix of human genetics and the extraterrestrial genetics? And sometimes when we're looking at the men that are going through hybridization, it can be equally as traumatic and frustrating for them because they are bred with both humans and extraterrestrials as well. Not just having sex with ETs, not just having sex with humans.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to David. Why were they there? Did you call them in telepathically, Samantha?
No, David, I didn't. I didn't call them in at all. I simply noticed that they were coming when I was driving with my children in my SUV to our friend's house. It was simply a matter of recognizing the vibration of craft when I was going over there. It didn't feel bad to me. When I do call them in, quite commonly they do come visit or come take care of us when we're having problems, though. So I can appreciate that.
All right, moving on. John is asking, does the color of the UFO coincide with the type of aliens, or does color not matter?
That's a really interesting question, John. One thing I have found is that there are actually a lot of different types of craft, and it doesn't seem to be as though, the Greys only have this one type of craft, or, the Andromedans only have this one type. It does seem as though there's no strong correlation between craft color or craft type necessarily and ETs. One thing that I've kind of discovered with the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals is it seems as though it can be just as diverse as what it is here on Earth, where you can have encounters with Andromedans, or sometimes they have the silver craft that we very commonly see with the Greys. That's like that brushed silver that's perfectly rounded, whereas other times they'll have more of the pancake-shaped disc that has the multicolored panels of lights underneath that are rectangular in shape. And it seems like it's a bit of a car lot out there where they trade technology and craft and things like that for other goods, services, and technology, at least from what I've noticed.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Tony in the UK. Hello there, very lovely Samantha. Dave, could you ask Samantha? I guess I'm going to ask you now. Had you met other beings before you and I had your encounter, and what or who were they?
Oh my God, so many. I met crystalline beings when I was very young. I met the Pleiadians from the time I was about 10 or so years old. I've had encounters with the Greys and the Andromedans my entire life. I've been meeting reptilians since I was a teenager. I've been meeting Andromedans since I was quite young as well. Pardon me if I'm repeating myself. I ended up meeting Lyrans because of my daughter had encounters with Lyrans. I was meeting Mantis beings before I met Dave because my son has strong affiliation with the Mantis beings. I've met a lot of different types of beings, including light beings, angelic beings. Good Lord, Dave, I'd have to even go in my journal because there's a lot of different types of beings. I think I've met 50 or 60 different species now. And I think it was a good 15 or 20 that I knew of before you, including crystal beings. And there's so much diversity with the beings. A lot of these were physical, some were astral, and a few were psychic. The physical ones that I had met before, Dave, off the top of my head, would be the Mantis, the reptilians, the Andromedans, the Pleiadians, and the Greys. I recall very strongly having physical encounters with them before I met Dave. Astral encounters would be your crystal beings. A lot of the psychic encounters would be going towards things like your light beings and your angelic beings, spirit guides, things of that nature. So there's actually 3 different ways in which you can meet these beings, and there's a lot of different types in there. I'm sorry, Tony, I'd have to go through my notes. You're asking me about 27-ish years worth of encounters before I met Dave, so a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Let's go to Kurt. Okay, Sam, so what age when the Greys stopped checking in on you?
Death. It does not matter if you die at 14, 35, 65, or 95. You will have encounters with the Greys from the time you were born, if you are one of their people, until the time you die. I know that my father, who's in his late 60s, is having encounters with Greys because I've seen him on craft, as well as when I'm at his home having physical encounters with him. As well as my grandfather, who's in his late 80s, still has physical encounters with Greys. I saw him last year when I was staying at his house having a physical encounter at the same time that my children and myself and my father were all having an encounter. So from what I can tell, when you die. Obviously, he's not still being bred, in case you're wondering. He was taken out of the hybrid program a long time ago, but they still have focus on their people.
If a man gets a vasectomy or a woman gets a hysterectomy,
yes,
or just naturally has her area stop producing, does that end the hybridization program for them?
Yes, my husband was taken out of the hybridization program when he got a vasectomy. Sometimes if someone is bordering where they're kind of fertile, but it's a sporadic fertile, the ETs may give that person health, healing, and injections into that area to help increase the fertility if they have an interest in breeding that person. However, most commonly, if that person is having reproductive issues such as menopause, or they're being going towards infertility, then they'll be taken out of the hybridization program. Same with if you have a tubal ligation, a hysterectomy, or anything like that, you will be removed from it.
Right. Okay. Let's go to John. What do aliens think about love and the soul?
Well, a lot of extraterrestrials and multidimensionals choose to incarnate as humans because they are fascinated by the aspect of the strong emotional depth that we have, ranging from, of course, our fear to our anger to our love to how passionate we can be, how happy, how depressed. They do find the realm of the emotions being very fascinating because, of course, emotions are energy and energy is a vibration. So, of course, they're trying to understand the vibrational range of emotions. And so a lot of them choose to incarnate here. Quite commonly, a lot of them do have a very strong fascination with the soul as well. They do understand the concept of reincarnation and how there is soul transfer, which is the process of taking someone's soul out of their body and moving into a different body. So for instance, John, sometimes when I go up on craft, I will step out of this body and go into one of my clones, or I will go into the body of an extraterrestrial or multidimensional and either work on other humans or do something I have to do and then go back into this one afterwards. The soul is a very complex thing in which they have a much greater understanding of than we do, and they don't view it to the same extent that we do either. They view it as something more along the lines of it's the interconnection to the all, and that is your small fragment of how you're interconnected to everything around you. It's really fascinating, and I'm trying to understand more of their perspective. But even with everything that I've come to have with my experiences with them, I still have a kindergarten understanding of how they perceive things.
Excellent. Let's continue on with another question. Let's
Sure.
go to David. Did you want them to stop, Dave, at the time when I was being taken? Yeah, of course you do. It's not very comfortable.
No.
But on the flip side, like I said, it started to tickle after
Mhm.
hearing Samantha's voice. So was that an implanted thing that happened? Probably. I don't really like being taken because I get mad. I get frustrated because I don't like the nighttime stuff. If you're going to take me now. Like right now, like when we go to break at the top of the hour, well, maybe wait until after the show because, that's just the way it is. But, I want that UFO to land in my backyard. Samantha knows I got a big backyard.
Mhm.
Can hold a big craft. Land right there with that blue cylinder, man. I'll walk on. I will walk on. That's just the way it is. All
That's
right.
completely understandable.
Ismo is asking, Samantha, can you touch on large orange orbs and what their purpose might be?
Sure, Gizmo. So one thing that you'll notice about a lot of orbs is an orb is actually a method of typically transferring an energy or a consciousness between one location and another. A common thing that you will find with orbs is that they can actually be used to take someone from being in their home to going up on a craft. So let's say, for instance, Gizmo, I was a mantis and I wanted to take you because it's time for your health examination. Rather than taking a beam of energy down to your house, it might be easier if you live in a city or somewhere like that for me to take an orb, because an orb can actually grow to being very large in size and then compress to being much smaller, being the size of a grapefruit or a baseball. So what I would do is I would actually expand that orb, and when I step into it, it will change the vibrational frequency of my body into being in compatibility with that orb. And from there, I'm able to travel through the sky, through your home, in a partially cloaked appearance. If you're slightly clairvoyant, you can start to see orbs in all range of colors. The different orbs can sometimes mean different things depending upon their different colors. And then I would come down into your room, expand the orb bigger, have you come into the orb with me, and we go back up into a craft. And from there, we would both step out of that orb because you'd be in a partially catatonic state, and it will enable me to transport you without the difficulty of worrying about you panicking and everything else, you falling, you getting hurt, or other people witnessing your encounter taking place. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter if the orb is blue, orange, purple, whatever. It can be attributed towards certain types of beings. So all sorts of beings can use orbs. So the reptilians use orbs for transportation, so the mantis, so do the grays. Very commonly, you will see orange and blue and white as common orb colors. Spirits sometimes use black orbs, and that can be how your clairvoyance perceives them. But there's a lot of different ways that orbs can come forward. Quite commonly with the orange orbs, I have seen them for transportation from craft.
There you go. Perfect. I hope that was a great answer for you. All right, let's continue on here because we got a lot of questions ahead and only 11 minutes left. Trisha is asking, what are the standards, if any, to detect a screen dreams?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, so there's a few things you want to look for, Trisha. First of all, you're going to want to look for common locations. For some people, they will find they're having dreams about one location over and over and over. It could be an airport or a party or your high school, but you'll find that the people that are present within there don't necessarily make sense. So one of my most common screen memory locations is actually airports. And so one thing I do when I'm trying to realize, okay, am I having a dream about traveling, or am I having an encounter with the masquerade of it being an airport, is I look at the commonalities. Is it fuzzy around the edges? Am I able to focus on anyone's face? Am I being guided and suggested about what I'm able to do? Because if it's just a dream, you're kind of like flitting about, going here and there, whatever makes you happy. But if it's an orchestrated type scenario where where the beings have abducted you, and now they're trying to make it so you're having the appearance of, humans over top of their appearance, and you're seeing it being an airport, for instance, you'll notice that the locational surroundings won't maintain consistency. You will find that the windows don't make sense, or why am I seeing a hot dog cart in an airport? Things like that will show up. And the same thing, like if you were to talk to the beings and be like, hey, can I go get a hot tub? They'd be like, let's go do this instead. There's a lot of guided suggestion when the beings are having a screen memory over top of what it is you're supposed to be doing. And they won't necessarily respond to you talking wise either. They'll do a lot of redirection is common things I've found as well.
All right, moving on. Let's go to Pete. What is the goal of the ETs doing this hybridization? Do people have a say in participating? Do they only take those willing to go?
So the goal for many of the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals who are doing hybridization is actually, depending upon the group, very different. So when we're looking at things such as the mantis beings in particular, they're doing a lot of hybridization to increase the amount of active extraterrestrial multidimensional genetics within humans to increase our consciousness, which allows for us to better be able to be more psychic, help break out of this new world order that we've got going on, make us safer for when we're more out in space, and to help us to not destroy our planet. Whereas with the Greys, when they're doing hybridization with us, it's because they like the amount of emotion that we have. They really like the way our genetics are quite healthy. They like the fact that humans seem to be developing psychic abilities, and we actually pair well with the Grey genetics as a whole, without it causing a lot of like mental insanity within them, without there being a lot of health problems with the hybrids. So that's why they're having humans that have more Grey genetics being bred with Greys, and with humans that also have a lot of Grey genetics, to allow for them to really almost like reincorporate emotions into a lot of their race in a healthy manner, because some of the Greys were actually going extinct because they had cut off their connection to source by detaching themselves so strongly from emotions, which is really fascinating. Now, when we're looking at things like the reptilians, some of the reptilians are breeding with humans because they find us sexually attractive, because we have a high percentage of reptilian DNA and we're compatible. Some of them do it because they want to control everything from like commerce to business to the world. So they have their hybrids in place as like little puppets to carry out their commands over top of this planet. There's a lot of reasons why different beings breed with us. The Pleiadians that end up breeding with us because they are more sexually kind of connected to us. They feel like they can have a strong emotional connection towards us, and they fall in love or fall in lust the same way we do. Sometimes it results in children, sometimes it doesn't. So that's very important to take into consideration. Some people do have a say in participating. Most people that are going through the hybridization program have soul contracts in place. This can be predetermined prior to your incarnation, which means that before you're born, you choose to incarnate into a family that is already being bred for the purpose of hybridization. And in doing so, you agree that when you reach puberty, you will be going into breeding itself. And prior to puberty, you will be going through the alteration of the genetic structure to be better able to handle the genetics of the extraterrestrials and the multidimensionals to a higher extent than what your previous generations have. So your mother may have been 5% Grey, your children, you would be like 10% Grey, your children will be able to have 15% of the Grey genetics, going up in increments like that, allowing for you to better handle the genetics of these beings and have more of their traits in a healthy capacity. Not everyone who's involved in these programs are necessarily willing to go, hence the catatonic state that quite a few people get put into. Some people really enjoy the genetic aspect of this. I love the medical component. I love meeting my hybrids. I'm quite fond of a lot of the people that I've been bred with, and have had wonderful experiences with them on craft. And I'm actually willing to be more of a participant because I've been given the ability to be more conscious and recognize that it's also beneficial for me to be in the hybrid program. Because if you're in the program, they also help heal you when you're having body issues as well. I'm trying to go faster for people so they can get a lot.
All right, let's go again. Let's go to Love v. Love. What if we had a Morena? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
It's an IUD, intrauterine device.
All right. They can still take my eggs, right? So long as you have eggs.
That's right. I was still in the hybrid program when I had an IUD, so it really makes no difference for them. They will still breed you regardless. They will still take your eggs out, and they will do artificial insemination to other people, or they will take them and grow them into their almost like these little artificial wombs that they have as well.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Let's go to Dead Fish. Can you do anything to incite an abduction?
Well, there are a few things you can do. One of the easiest, which is you can actually develop, you can take a couple months to do this. You can develop a relationship with the beings through doing astral projection, project into the same type of group or consciousness group over and over, which can start to facilitate a relationship and eventually lead towards you having physical abductions. The other things you can do is you can do things like going camping in the woods, because they do quite commonly take people that are kind of alone from other people for the opportunistic abductions that we see taking place. You can also do things like showing them your location through psychic activity. So you would start with showing, outside of the earth and kind of like a Google Zoom all the way down to your house. Like, hey, this is me. I want to meet you guys. Come interact with me. Doing that over and over through meditation for a couple months will cause them to have interest in you, and also to start taking you as well. To an extent, they'll come see you psychically and astrally and start to interact with you if they find an interest in you.
All right, continuing on, as we got about 4 minutes here. Let's see how many we can get in. DOD is asking, and you've told some not to bother you because some are irritable, the ETs?
Some of them are quite difficult to tolerate. So think of it this way. If you're going through a lot in your life, in my situation, I'm going through multiple family members dying at this time. And my children have their psychic abilities going through the roof, and they have their own contact, and I have my own other contact, and all the other stresses of life. Some of these beings have been very discourteous with how they've chosen to respect my boundaries. I've asked for everyone to pull back and to give me space for a while, because I'm trying to write the book that they asked me to write. I'm trying to do the other things that they've asked me to do. And yet they still insist upon trying to breed me with other people who I don't necessarily agree to want to breed with. So that will cause you to be very discourteous if someone's trying to coerce you into having hybridization with someone when you don't want to breed with other people, when you've already chosen your primary, which is your main breeding partner. So yes, some have put me in a really irritable mood, and I've been quite mean towards them as a result.
All right, let's continue on here with Samantha Mowat. Let's go to David. Samantha, do you consider any of the aliens you interact with as friends?
Yes, several. They've actually done me the great pleasure of telling me when certain family members were going to be getting sick and passing, or when they're going to be having children coming into their lives and major life events. They've been very good about sharing information with me and been quite, loving towards me when I'm going through a tough time. I was actually very sad and quite depressed in early 2019. And I was overwhelmed by my contact and everything else that was going on. More so the black op contact than the ET contact. And I had ETs coming to see me and hugging me and telling me it was going to be all right, and that they were there to assist me and showing me how they were willing to help me. And they have become very close friends and family members for me. And they've warned me about things that are coming up on the earth that are actually quite concerning for a lot of the rest of the planet. And they have assured me that myself and my family will be taken care of, so we don't have to worry about them.
Continuing, let's sneak in another one. Peppa is asking, if I ask for a UFO to appear, what are the odds that one will actually show itself?
It depends, Peppa, on where you ask and how you ask. So let's say you were to ask repeatedly towards the same group over and over. If you were to do a meditation and to call them in and take like an hour or 45 minutes to get yourself in the right harmonious heart space, and you were to form a telepathic connection, like your heart to their heart, telepathically connecting with them, they're more likely to come to you than just randomly saying, hey, I want to see a UFO. If you just say it randomly, you're not likely to see one. But if you put in the energetic focus, you'll be in alignment for them, where they'll be like, hey, I really like Peppa's energy. Let's go see what's going on here. Oh, he's asking us. Yeah, well, okay, we've got time. We could do that. Because they'll see you as someone who's more investing your energy into being in harmony with the earth than everything else. So they'll be more inclined to contact you.
See if we can sneak one more in the final moment. Let's go to Tim. Do you ever attempt to capture any of your experiences on video?
I have. We actually had security cameras up around the house, and every single time, for some reason, we'd have technological problems with them where they'd cut out. Or if I had them in my carport and facing my front door, they'd start taking me through the ceiling, or they'd take me through the sliding glass door on the other side of the house. It's quite frustrating. We've tried over and over to get it. And Dave, what are you looking at?
Oh, just the chat room.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So we have tried repeatedly, and I do find we have a lot of technological issues a lot of people that have either heard me speak at conferences or online, you'll find that quite commonly I have tech issues, and it's because of my contact. They do tend to disrupt it a fair bit, which makes it very frustrating.
Samantha, I absolutely love it that you're here. Usually we bring you on every couple of months,
Yeah.
which we will do in probably late spring.
No
Line
worries.
up our camping trip.
Yeah.
And tell everybody your YouTube channel and your website.
Just Google Samantha Mowat. You'll find me. Nice and easy. Thank you so much for having me on, Dave. It was lovely to talk to you and your guests. I hope they all have a beautiful night.
9 years
Yeah.
since a UFO landed. I'll never forget the feeling and Samantha coming into my life.
Yeah.
Samantha Mowat, everybody. When we return for hour 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Then our resident Timbit, Tim Senor, will be here for the UFO report. Jam-packed hour 3 next on Spaced Out Radio.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Samantha.
No worries, Dave. Have a good night. Give everyone a big hug from me. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Love her. Love her. Yes, I do. She's important. I'll be right back, guys. Hello, Joshua S. Hellion Beast, how are you? Show's not over. We got another hour to go yet. Wasn't Samantha great? She was fantastic. Love her. Very protective of her. Let's see here. Little Timmy Senor. What's he wearing tonight? Oh, he's got a golf shirt on. Little polo going on. Size extra small. He's a double X small. Samantha, I will tell you, is the real deal. I have been in so many situations with her over the years regarding extraterrestrials. It's pretty hard to, you have to see it to believe it. An interview with her is just not good enough to explain everything. Just doesn't work. Big thank you tonight to Tricia, Kira, Random Gee, Yum Yum, Gizmo, Thomas, and Derek for the amazing super chats. And our store is open. And don't forget, you have 5 more days to confirm that you want VIP tickets to our fan party in Las Vegas, May 19th through 21st. Then we're cutting them off right there. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kalan. Kalan is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night once again where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. My friend and I were just texting about this story the other day since it randomly crossed my mind again. I'm about to tell the story of one winter in the early 2000s when my buddy and I were in grade 11. Our names will be slightly altered and the exact location of the main event will be omitted to help us remain anonymous. So, as you'll see, my buddy and I did nothing morally wrong, but we still want to stay anonymous. We didn't make the best safety decisions considering the situation we ultimately ended up in during this story, which is why I said I didn't do anything morally wrong. However, we did do multiple things that were wrong common sense-wise. My buddy and I had just finished working out at our local gym. We do live in a relatively small community in Canada, and people aren't really around all that often. After finishing up our workout and leaving the gym, my buddy, who we'll call Heisenberg for the sake of this story, as that is the television fictional character that he likes, suggests that we go out for a rip in his truck on some of the back roads of a nearby mountain area for fun. On the way to this mountainous or extremely steep-hilled area, however you want to look at it, we have a great time blasting music and making jokes. However, the closer we got to our destination, which was a super cool lookout over the top of the mountain, the thicker the snow started to get, as it was the middle of winter, as I said. The further we went down the back roads, the more dense the trees became, and the less noticeable the road was. This changed eventually, and we reached a clearing in the middle of the back roads. The snow was thicker than before, and finally there was too much snow for Heisenberg and me to go any further. At this point, we weighed out our options and decided to try and turn around and go home. However, we were in for a sketchy surprise. We could not turn around because the snow had gotten so deep that we couldn't back up his truck at all. The only reason we could make it to where we were was because of the speed his vehicle was going at the time. And since we suddenly stopped the truck to weigh our options, we couldn't wait back to peel out of there, you know? We checked his vehicle to see if there was anything that could help dig out part of the snow to help make it easier to exit for us, but unfortunately, we forgot to put a shovel in the back of his truck on this day. I offered to run to a nearby town to get help. After running for just a few minutes, I stopped. What I was doing could be a bad idea because the snow was intense on the section of the back roads we were stuck. The back roads were slippery further down the mountainous area we had driven through to get where the truck was stuck. Meaning if anything happened to me, if I slipped or got hurt, nobody would likely know for a while or ever, so nobody would be there to help me. So I returned back to the truck. I didn't realize it would be safer for my buddy and me to stick together. I guess that should be common sense, and this is why I mentioned in the beginning that we made some bad choices. We panicked for a bit because nobody knew where we were. However, we eventually came to the terms with the idea that we may have to spend the night in the wilderness, as it was getting late and the sun would go down within the next hour or two. Also, as it was winter, the weather was getting much colder. Unfortunately, we didn't think to prepare for this situation, and I don't think we would have been able to make it out, especially clothing-wise, because we were working out at the gym before this and were still wearing shorts and t-shirts, so we were slightly worried about the condition we'd be enwrapped in the following day if we stayed out here. Eventually, the sun began to set and the thick fog sunk over the clearing, making the lack of visibility another stress-inducing element of this whole experience. After about 20 minutes of darkness and fog, headlights appeared in the mist ahead of us. A man exited the truck and came through the fog and walked to our car. The man lightly tapped his fingers against Heisenberg's window, signaling for him to lower it. Heisenberg fell the window slightly. The man then spoke. He asked us if we were having trouble and needed assistance. We explained to him our story, precisely as I've told you so far, and he agreed to help us. We also told him that his truck was the only one we had seen since driving on this back road, and he explained that he lived in a small house just up the road and just wanted to go out for a rip in his own truck for this particular day. The man then walked back to his truck, pulled out a chainsaw, and then proceeded to walk towards our car. Just before reaching where our truck was, he departed from the clearing in the road and walked over to a nearby tree in the wooded area on the side of the back road. He then cut a few skinny branches off the tree. I got out of the truck and walked over to him. I asked him what he was doing in a polite tone and introduced myself formally as Jesse. Again, not my real name. Still, for anonymity, I'm using it, as, I don't want to be giving it to anybody. Anyways, I introduced myself using my real name when I spoke to him. He introduced himself too and explained that he could use the small branches to help prop our truck tires on the top of the snow, and then we'd have to rev the engine like we'd never done before to hopefully get unstuck. We did eventually get our truck onto a part of the road with light snow covering. We then hopped out of our car to thank him for helping us. He told us it was not a problem, then got back in his car, turned around, and disappeared into the nighttime winter fog just as quickly as he had arrived. After he left, we agreed to eventually become 100% convinced that we had just met our guardian angel in human form, and honestly, we're just super happy we lived. I know this isn't necessarily the most, heart-pounding, adrenaline-inducing horror story, but the thought that we could have died because of our lack of common sense at the time really does freak me out, and I think a lot of people can relate.
And that's why we love the Swamp Dweller around here, taking us on a spooky journey each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. And, you know, we love it when he kicks off hour number 3 each and every night that we are on the air. And if you want more, it's very simple. He's got thousands of stories just like that for free. Go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads and just hit that subscribe button. It'll help him out and support his channel. From the swamp to the stars, it is that time of the night once again where we bring in Little Timmy Senor and the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Yes, Tim, it's been a busy week, and we're not even at the beginning of the week yet. And already, man, there is UFO stories galore happening. And you know, this topic, it just, you know, just when you think it started to die down, it just rushes right back up the mountain, Tim.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to run out of time tonight. And there's no way we're going to be able to cover everything. The headlines are bursting with information on this topic. So please kick us off, buddy. We'll use the time we have.
Well, no kidding. The big one is we got to start off with Lou Elizondo because he is pumped right up about an article in Simon & Schuster about UFOs and everything that's coming through here. Man, you gotta tell us this story.
Yeah, so I will do exactly that. And so Lou Elizondo tweeted out that in this quote today, and I'll just shoot it out as the tweet goes, "I'm aware of all the facts in regards to this true story, and to call it a bombshell story would be an understatement. Buckle up." Right? And so the link below is from deadline.com. And the headline reads, "Simon & Schuster imprint wins the bidding war for twist-filled memoir by U.S. intelligence officer tangled up in mysterious military program." And so the exclusive here from Deadline is that Simon & Schuster Imprint Gallery Books has won a bidding war for the North American publishing rights to a twist-filled true story rooted in intrigue surrounded a U.S. Air Force program. And so the logline for the memoir by Scott Andrews takes some time to unpack, but it's a doozy. Andrews is a former senior U.S. soldier and decorated intelligence officer who conducted global counterterrorism operations on behalf of the United States. And during a 36-year military career, after returning home from overseas mission, he began to suffer from a rare life-threatening ailment that defied medical explanation. And rather than simply succumbing, he instead began to experience special, inexplicable abilities, such as remote viewing, and his body began to heal, baffling doctors. And so as we read on in this story, again from Deadline, as he sought more information about his health, Andrews came across a file compiled for him by his late father, and it contained records from a past he did not remember, including documents indicating he was removed from school for weeks every year for the first through 12 grades. The records also contained a shocker that he received an honorable discharge from the U.S. Air Force and he worked in space intelligence, working in communications as a minor. And so Andrews maintains that he has no memory of having served in the U.S. Air Force. So this continues on with him making contact with doctors. And after making contact with some of these CIA expert doctors, we find out that he is potentially suffering from what is called Havana syndrome, a phenomenon first reported by military personnel working at the U.S. Embassy in Havana. And so the syndrome has generated significant media attention in the top-tier outlets, consisting of the investigations that went over time to determine that Andrews had been targeted with an advanced energy weapon. And so this memoir is being repped by his manager, and he's also being handling his life rights and producing the adaptation for film or TV, as well as this book that has been greenlit. So it sounds like there's going to be foreign publishing rights as well. So this story is going to come forward as being the truth. And it's been also given the green check mark of approval by Lou Elizondo himself, saying that this is a true story. What are your thoughts on this headline?
Well, I think this opens up a whole new ball game for what we're talking about when it comes to UFOs and contact. I mean, look, when you're getting into a lot of these stories, Tim, that military personnel have had close encounters, it's so vague, yet it's so intriguing. Where are they happening? When did they happen? How close were they flying? In a C-130 Hercules or a C-5 Galaxy, or was this another maybe an unknown Rendlesham type of case that's happened in the continental U.S.? I mean, there's so many of these stories that just opens up a brand new path. I'm just absolutely intrigued by it, man. Absolutely intrigued.
It'll be great when this book comes out. And in a linked story, the Daily Mail actually has an exclusive about potentially forensic neuroimaging expert Christopher Green coming forward and talking about how he has dealt with hundreds of patients who were injured or died after interacting with UFOs. And in this exclusive, in this quote, it says they woke up burned or injured, and a top brain expert and ex-CIA officer reveals hundreds of military servicemen suffering brain damage or symptoms of mysterious Havana syndrome, and even death occurring after UFO contact. And in this quote, he continues to say, "I'm the go-to physician in the Department of Defense for unexplained morbidity and mortality." And he told this directly to Daily Mail in this exclusive interview. And so in the quote, he continues to say, "I do look at injuries and mortality from an unidentified or UAP's perspective, and he considers them as part of the phenomenon that is causing these ailments." So Kit Green, or Christopher Green, a professor at the Wayne State School of Medicine in Detroit, was in 2010 commissioned to write a paper by a secret $22 million defense program. And he describes symptoms of multiple sclerosis, brain damage, and burns among patients from the quote-unquote close encounters of the third and fourth kind events. He said symptoms of many of the cases were similar to Havana syndrome, a mysterious illness affecting diplomats and officials in embassies around the world. Continuing on, Green said many of his patients experienced these burns and brain damage, that 1 in 10 died within 7 years of their reported encounter. And we don't need to get too deep into this, but this comes in a new article here again from dailymail.co.uk in the exclusive that Kit Green gave to them. And there's even more facts within this article, but what do you think about some of this fact coming forward and being associated with UFO?
I'll tell you, you know me, I love tying things together, Tim. Okay. Elizondo was head of ATIP when the 22 million was given out. Kit Green confirms that a lot of these studies were happening, and money now was supposed, in at least my understanding of it, money of that was supposed to study these, but it never really got there in that 22 million with the ATIP program. And so I see Elizondo right now tying this all together. The sad part about it, because we try and give both sides of the story here, the sad part about it is this is another "you got to trust me" story. But this is bigger than that. And we've heard, people on this show, including Random Guy, who is tied up with NDAs up the yin yang, who will, explain, look, we don't have a choice but to give you that "trust me, bro" sentence on that. If this is true, what Elizondo is saying, And Kit Green is saying, who is one of the top scientists over the decades regarding this subject, you could put him as a lesser known Gary Nolan type of scientist, or I believe he worked a lot with Robert Bigelow back in the day as well. We are looking at some serious contact with the phenomena. Was this lined up contact? Was this contact like Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the end of the movie, where they had these military personnel surrounded and little aliens were coming out of the ship and trading the humans that they had once taken for new humans? This opens up a whole new aspect, man, of this entire subject. And it's phenomenal to me that this is even coming out right now, considering the nuts and bolts crowd continues to grow with new groups popping up, and they all want to be a part of the science of it all. Now we're getting into humanity. This is where I like it, is we get into the human side of everything. Okay. And I want to know more. Where did these happen? How many different incidents have happened like this? They're giving us less than crumbs right now. Is this what's being discussed in the backdoor hearings of this subject? I mean, doesn't it make you wonder, Tim?
Well, we've been getting hints at the fact that some whistleblowers have already come forward, and we've heard wind. At some point, a doctor was one of them. We could maybe surmise that Dr. Kit Green was potentially the person that went forward and spoke on this. And now we hear him talking to potentially the media across the globe. So maybe he is our whistleblower that's coming forward representing the witness and the experience and the close contact and some of the fallout that can come from close contact. It's definitely important. And you're somebody that has always professed the importance of that aspect of this topic to be brought forward. And so I think you're absolutely right. This could be the first step in that direction. And I would love to see Dr. Kit Green being that representative, because we've seen he's been in the headlines in the background on this topic for a very long time, well experienced. And if he is the go-to guy for the Department of Defense with these cases, then he should be the representative going forward as a whistleblower on the truth behind these close contacts.
Absolutely. And this is where we stressed him about the need for transparency. If we know this is all going on right now, and these are situations that are happening within the U.S. government and within the branches of the military, where they are able to set up these close encounters where people are getting injured, I'm curious to know how they are getting injured. Are they getting injured by touching the craft, being too close to craft and having the radiation go on them? Are they walking onto craft? This opens up so many interesting questions, that we really don't know. That would mean if they are near craft, that they are probably not approaching those craft with any type of radiation detection equipment or proper radiation gear. It'd be just like you and me in our civvies walking up to a UFO, and, we would be, radiated. I guess that would be the word I'm looking for. Pardon me if I'm wrong, but I'm curious. How is this happening? Why is this happening? Where is this happening? This is the type of stuff that I enjoy talking about. This is the type of stuff where, I wish we couldn't have one of those "we can't tell you." But look, if they are lining up any sort of meetings between aliens and humans, how often has it happened? How long has this been going on?
Right.
We got about a minute, bud.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting that the facts seem to unfold right in front of us now, and we're getting it in the headlines. You don't have to look too far now to find something on this topic. And the fact is, they are bringing evidence forward. I would consider medical evidence as good as any evidence out there. That is a result of an interaction. And so I think that that is an absolutely fair way to look at this, because it's the personal aspect. It's the psychological, the physical, and everything else that comes with that contact. And so I think that is the most important part to be bringing forward. The nuts and bolts stuff, yes, it's important. That is a flight potential hazard, let's just call it, maybe in the reality of the government. But this way, we're bringing some facts forward.
Absolutely. Tim Senor and the UFO report continues when we return on Spaced Out Radio. God, that was a good topic right off the bat, wasn't it? When we come back, we are going to get into Madagascar UFOs and UUP. Are you ready for UUP? We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio. That was a good topic.
Solid. You had a good show tonight. Samantha is so knowledgeable. That was my first time actually seeing her. And that was just a great interview. And wow, mind-blowing stuff. She's an encyclopedia.
When we go camping this summer, you make sure you bring your family up.
No way.
Bring your cameras.
You think I'm chicken? I raised a bunch of chickens. I'll bring my cameras, but boy, I'm gonna bring the long lenses so I can be far away from you guys or wherever. I don't know. No. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. It really is. And it'll be great to do investigations with you guys and, film you guys doing investigations potentially. Are we even, camping in the woods with Bigfoot. Are we, what?
Yeah, man.
Seems crazy.
We're going to do it.
Timbit becomes Tim Speck on the horizon.
We are going to go to Tim Hortons every day and get you Timbits.
Oh, that's great. I don't eat that stuff. But I'll tell you what, I love coffee. I've heard it's the best coffee around. So
yeah, well, you're going to get some Timbits too. Because we got to have you posing eating a Timbit.
You got to do it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're going to have to take a Timbit for the team, buddy. Take a Timbit for the team.
Do I look like a junk food guy? I'm probably.
Well, you are double extra small.
I'm not a double extra small, just small. 5'9" and I wear small.
Oh, I haven't been in small since probably grade 8.
Hey, I wear a 10.5 though, so you do the math on that.
I'm only a 9.
What? How tall are you?
5'8"3/4.
Oh, okay. The math checks out there. 3/4.
Yeah, God couldn't give me that extra 1/4 inch, man.
You're like a 6-year-old. And 3/4. How old are you going to be this year? How old are you now? Are you 50 3/4? 7/8?
I'm 49 9/10.
I think it'd be 12ths, wouldn't it be? Give me out of 12ths.
Yeah, 10.5.
You and fractions up there in Canada, you're all metric. You have no idea what fractions are.
Beautiful.
Bust your chops.
Love it.
The only part of the world where they have a 7-day work week. There's no weekends up there. This guy.
It's amazing how that works, eh?
Bigfoot takes no breaks.
Nope. Excuse me. Just can't wait. Yay, the big 50. You know what I do every birthday year?
Chop down a tree.
No. Although that would be fun. You've never cut down a tree, have you?
Of course, dude. I'm from upstate New York. Yeah,
you have cut down.
I've chopped down. Yeah, I'm actually a country boy.
You have not.
I worked on a horse farm till I was 16.
I'll let you choose my
Trust.
so
Oh, that would be fun.
yeah.
Knock a little lean-to out, no problem.
Oh yeah, you're a lean-to kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Love it. I love it.
Now you know why. Now you know why I chose Samantha for what we're doing.
She doesn't seem to be afraid of it. She's fearless. No. Yeah, fearless. That's the big thing. Yeah. Standing your ground and being happy about the interaction. And I was wondering, like, I'm sure intention is a big thing. And so you got to be strong in mind and heart. So, yeah, she seems like the perfect person for it. Right? So it's good on you for having her as a guide. Makes sense.
Totally. Hey, big thank you tonight to Blue Cruise, Deb, Derek, Thomas, Gizmo, Yum Yum, Random Gee, Kira, and Trisha for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support of SOR. We really do appreciate it. And our store is open on our website, so check it on out. Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the UFO report. We're going to head to the beautiful island of Madagascar, not for a Disney movie, but apparently we may have some aliens going on there, Tim.
We do indeed. Back in 1954, in fact, on August 16th, there were, in fact, aliens. And on an August afternoon in 1954, several hundred eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a UAP. It remains one of the most intriguing cases to have occurred in southern Africa. So on the background of this case, the fifth largest island of the world, Madagascar, is renowned for its unique flora and fauna. Although its country boasts plenty of natural resources, it remains one of the world's most impoverished nations. And on the afternoon of 16th of 1954, personnel at the Air France office observed what was described as a large green sphere moving quickly through the sky. Several observers thought the object had been a meteorite, as they had watched it move behind a hill in the distance. Anticipating hearing a loud crash upon impact, however, no sound was heard at any time, even as the object passed through the sky above them. And so after approximately 1 minute, the object reappeared from behind the hill, flying on course that brought it directly over the perplexed observers at the Air France office. From that vantage point, the object appeared to be metallic and resembled a rugby ball, and preceded by a clearly detached green lens-shaped portion, which produced a trail of sparks as it passed over them. The object was estimated to be 40 meters in length. Some observers compared it to the size of a Douglas DC-4 aircraft. So the observers of the object said the odd lens-shaped frontal portion appeared to separate from the main body, moving ahead while also producing sparks. So the Air France employees said the object flew at an estimated height of no more than 100 meters, and based on comparisons with the height of a nearby hilltop. So as the object passed over Tenerife, The observers said electrical lightning in various shops and residual homes suddenly blinked out. In addition to the electrical disturbances, animals also appeared disturbed by the object. So the object reportedly moved towards the west and passed over a nearby park where zebu cattle herds were ranging, causing a violent fright reaction among them. And then there was an appearance of a second object. Within 2 or 3 minutes of the first object's passing over Tenerife, a second object described as the identical to the first appeared. First observed approximately 150 kilometers away over a nearby farm. The second object also disturbed the cattle in the area, prompting farmers to call for help, fearing that the animals may drown as they fled into nearby marshes. Upon its sudden appearance, some witnesses questioned whether the second object observed had in fact been the reappearance of the initial UFO. However, the witnesses eliminated that for a single object to have traversed that distance between the location where the initial observation had ended and its reappearance over the farm school would likely have required a speed of close to 3,000 kilometers an hour. And so, following the UAP event, a scientific commission was gathered at the direction of General Pierre Flauquin, Commander-in-Chief of the Air French East Africa in Madagascar at the time of the incident. And despite the knowledge of the commission, decades later it was determined that no trace of the investigation could be found at the Air Force archives, although it was found that and featured in an incident and an archive newspaper journal and a few other almanacs. So, Dave, what's your thought of this recollection? And they do actually have some witness recollections here that I could include. It just goes on into some detail, but this wasn't a case I had heard of. What are your thoughts on this?
I'd never heard of this case either. But you know, the one thing that I love about this, Madagascar, as you mentioned right off the bat, it's a very poor country overall. And this case just goes to show and prove that you don't have to be in a first world nation, a second world nation, in order to have these interactions with UFOs. Okay. It's something that the phenomena that we talk about all the time really doesn't care about pay scale. They really don't care about where you live. If you're living in a mansion or, a cardboard shanty, it really doesn't seem to matter to the phenomena. When they arrive, they arrive. And the people could be rich, poor, a great dental plan or no teeth at all, unemployed, a lawyer or a doctor or somebody who's just getting by. And that's why I think reports like this are very important, Tim, in order to add up into the entire catalog. Granted, it's not going to make a difference on any sort of disclosure movement, but what it does is it's an important piece of the puzzle that when we put everything together, we can tell that the phenomena is not biased towards whether you live in the United States or you live in China or you live in Madagascar where this happened, or London, England, or Canada, or Brazil. It's happening everywhere. And I think that really helps open the eyes to what this phenomena is all about.
Indeed. And what's so interesting about this case in particular is that it caught the interest of Charles de Gaulle, who eventually initiated some inspections and official research into the study of UFO, with partnering up with Jean-Luc Bruno, the former Inspector General of Commissioner à l'Énergie, so the Atomic Energy Commission for France. So very interesting to see that this was a very impactful case, and there were actually eyewitnesses that came forward and gave their accounts as recently as 2004. And so that was one of the witnesses that was tracked down. At 87 years old, he was still remembering that and considered a credible witness, which is a huge factor when it comes to the legacy of this topic. And Dave, I don't know if you have the link there, but I think it'd be great if you could just read out the the source of that, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Well, I have to pull it up because you have it on my phone here. The source of that. So I'm going to have to click on the article here.
You don't have to. If I can do
the Enigma Labs.
Indeed. A tasty little dive into some of their historic records that they've been able to find and put together on the topic.
Wow. Look at you.
Details.
I know you're a big fan of Enigma Labs.
I just want to stay down the middle, and I want the fact that they bring something to the table. I want to bring it. So I thought it was such a good historical case I'd never heard of personally.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. All right. Now, we've
Sit
got 2
down
home
and
runs
buckle
here.
up.
Yeah, we got 2 home runs here, and you know what? Now we're going to get into it. So it's no longer USO, which is underwater, or what is
submerged,
unidentified submerged object.
It's been rebranded.
We're now UUP. UUP.
Sorry.
That is horrible. That is a horrible acronym. UUP? Yeah. Don't
UUP?
you?
Oh, I definitely do.
Oh, twice a night and then in the morning.
Yeah. Sometimes during the night. I have to get up.
Yeah. My goodness.
Ain't like it used to be, but I'll tell you what, the Unidentified Undersea Phenomena acronym UUP has officially made its way to the lingo of the military. And so the deep, dark depths of the ocean have always been a source of mystery and intrigue, from ancient legends of sea monsters to modern tales of advanced underwater technology. There's no denying the fascination with what lies beneath the waves. And so one aspect of this intrigue is the phenomenon of unidentified submerged objects, USOs, which have recently been given a rebranding to Unidentified Undersea Phenomenon, UUP. So this new shedding light on the mystery in the rebranding of UUP, or unidentified, and this is great, in the conversation here they call it unidentified undersea objects, bringing UUO into play in the conversation, talking about, anyways, it's just fun. But this is coming through a former Navy oceanographer and administrator of National Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, reveals that unidentified undersea objects have been rebranded to Unidentified Undersea Phenomenon. And this change mirrors the renaming of UFOs to Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon by the military to remove all associated stigma. And so researchers who have uncovered this information suggest that individuals seeking specific details on these underwater objects through the Freedom of Information may request documents containing the term USO, but may want to consider bringing UUP into the conversation when making that document request.
Let's not say we did, okay? There's nothing wrong with USO. There's nothing wrong with UFO. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. UUP, I don't even know where to go with this one. And the ridiculousness that absolutely follows it up.
The funny thing is they're linking the origin to some of the paperwork relating to the Nimitz incident. So actually that term started way back then in the seeding by the military to potentially now bring it into full-fledged vernacular. So it was due to come. But I could see it when I brought it forward. I knew you were going to love it because you love it when acronyms change. And your audience knows I love to poke the bear. And so I brought it to you with...
What is the purpose of changing it? Don't give me the government jargon on, well, we have to make things sound more professional and more accurate with everything. No, you don't. Tim, help me out here because I'm struggling.
Well, according to the military, it's to remove the associated stigma. And if you want to believe them, then that would be the answer. But personally, I think it's to confuse people. It's to make it harder to FOIA or request information. I think it is one of those things where it makes a witness less credible if they don't use the proper terminology at the time of their description. It's all kinds of ways to undermine the topic of any witness or any sighting, any piece of data that lingers. It's a way to confuse the undersea topic in a new way, which I find interesting. So if you want to step back and say, why now? I think it's because they're starting to see more activity in their ocean. They're starting to realize that the description they currently have may not fit within what they're finding. So they're having to rebadge it to kind of fit what they're seeing. And I would like to say that potentially is that we're seeing a learning curve here with their terminology, if you're going to see anything potentially positive with this.
Do we really, really need these terms changed? Honestly, for the sake of sanity, can we just call it the sake of sanity right now? You know, I'm just not a fan, Tim. I got to change topics because this one's going to make me angry. Let's go to Area 51.
Oh, let's stand by while I bring that forward. Caught me off guard there. I thought we were going to linger on that, but I can see you're turning red.
I'm trying to turn over a new leaf here.
You're doing well. I like that cheek has been turned. Yeah, you're turning the cheek. So Area 51 manager says flying saucer and live being were recovered at a secretive site. A former manager of a defense contractor that used to run the notorious Area 51 claims that the remains were once recovered that included both flying saucer and alien bodies. And so the U.S. government found a crashed ship and live being, according to this former manager of Area 51. And the defense contractor EG&G ran the notorious site at the time, and a senior manager there, Alfred O'Donnell, has since claimed that, in a quote, they did have a flying saucer that had been recovered from New Mexico. And in an interview with investigative journalist George Knapp, O'Donnell also claimed to have claimed that there was a live being also recovered. And so in this story coming from dailystar.co.uk, Knapp reported that O'Donnell said in a quote, "We didn't know what it was. To tell you the truth, we couldn't communicate with it. In the beginning, we didn't know what it was, and we didn't know where it was from, and we didn't know what to do with it." So moving on in this story, it sounds like there was quite a few people that may have come in close contact with it. And Knapp said that this person claimed that they knew about crashed saucers, recovered materials, and what sounded like a Roswell-type incident. In this is particularly a female that came forward. The woman allegedly refuses to have meetings with Knapp over the supposed intimidation by unknown agents in the past. In 1990, leading politicians encouraged investigations into these claims. And so they were led by congressional staffer Richard D'Amato, but he was unable to verify those claims. So it sounds like his official on-the-record statement was, however, in a quote, "I met with a number of people who had made a public statement on the matter, and I had reported it and my conclusion to the senator that on the basis for such allegations, it did not appear to merit any Senate investigation." So beyond the inquiry on behalf of the senator, there was no personal opinion made on this over the past 20 years. And now it's being brought back into light with Alfred O'Donnell coming forward and talking with George Knapp. After all this time, Dave, do you feel that it is possible that the ex-manager of Area 51 actually had eyes on a live being and crashed saucer from New Mexico?
Well, first off, we have to understand that Area 51 today is not what it was 30, 40 years ago. Okay, when from my knowledge of study and research of people I've talked to, Area 51 back in the day was a CIA-run operation where they hid a lot of things and tested a lot of things, from flight to missiles to bombs and nuclear bombs and everything in the Nevada desert. But over the last 20, 25 years, since the CIA pulled out of Area 51 and was replaced by Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, and many other flight and aerospace companies, it's become more of a testing ground for potential technology as these companies test more military type of drones and type of aeronautics that will lead us into eventually the 22nd century, right?
Yeah.
So I find that very, very interesting to see what is going on there, because it really is a tale of two different Area 51s. I mean, I've talked to people who've worked there. You've talked to people who've worked there. And every time we bring up aliens, it's a resounding no. Never saw a thing like that. Never saw anything happen. Never saw UFOs. Never saw things that look like UFOs, but happen to have a Stars and Stripes logo on them. Okay. I mean, you and I have talked to people like that. That's our job to do that. So it's very interesting that if they did have craft and or a live alien, which has been reported for decades coming out of Area 51. Remember the Skinny Bob rumors, and then there was the J-Rod rumors and Valiant Thor rumors. If that was the case, it happened long ago, which would be very hard to find any sufficient evidence publicly on it.
That's right. And let's also consider the date. Like you're saying, it says pre-heavy digital age, and internet wasn't around, right? And this was a defense contractor, EG&G, that was running the site at the time. And you're talking about a person that was the senior manager there with all access. So if there was somebody in the know, this is potentially the person that would. And so maybe there are no records of it. If there were files, those are easily burnable, and not easily traced as far as digital age files are, right? And so if there were things they wanted to hide, they may have been easily hidden. And maybe they left at the same time as they brought in the computers. And those files were either kept or not. And if it was part of that organization, probably not. And this is all hypothetical, but I'm saying something like this potentially could still slip through, even with the knowledge that I, and I'm sure you have. This is still considered a potential. Even with the people that I know, this is still something that could have happened, because it is at a time that things could happen like that.
You got that right, Tim Senor. Another great UFO report for us on Spaced Out Radio. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god of self. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend we got room for them too, unless they use the term UUP. Good night. Are we calling in the G?
If he's around, that'd be cool. I got a little time.
I got a little time here too. Let's see if the G is available.
Man, I love reporting on this stuff. It's so much fun. I believe like maybe that much of it, but it's so fun to talk about.
Oh, dude, that was good one. Good stuff tonight. I'm excited about Elizondo stuff.
Yeah. It'll be cool to see that stuff come out into the public and a book on it. I'll read it. Stay open-minded, but come on.
Well, we'll see if the G is going to join us here.
I love it.
See if the G is going to join us.
We'll stay right down the middle on this, you guys. Keep on reporting it.
Right down the middle.
That's right.
Right down the middle where Timmy put his baseball cards.
This guy. Is he night? I didn't see him in the chat. That's never a good
He
sign.
was in the chat. There's the Gee.
There
he
he
is.
What up,
Hey,
what up,
Gee.
what up, homies?
Yeah. My guy.
Yo.
What's up, my guy?
Hey, we're going to get new random guy t-shirts. Instead of UUP, we're going to get UUG.
Let's go. Let's do it. Sounds like a hockey goalie.
It does.
UUG? Yeah, Rob's right. He's the real G.
That's the way it is.
What's the word? I guys hear you saying some interesting stuff tonight.
Please chip in.
Very interesting stuff. Now, what would you like to discuss first? I thought we had some good stuff going on. First of all, your guest was awesome. I enjoyed Sam. So it's nice to have somebody corroborate your story with you too, probably when you're telling one. So that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Some people still won't believe it, but that's okay.
What do you want to talk about, Timmy? I know you're foaming at the mouth.
You want to talk about UUG?
What? I got so many issues with things. Forget about it.
Well, let's tackle them one at a time. Let's work together.
Okay. Well, I was tracking a couple of weather balloons over Arizona with a guy named Tom King who had visuals on it.
Right.
And then I was tracking it with flight radar. And interestingly, they're registered and they're American and that's no problem. But they were flying at 66,000 feet, lingering at 60,000, pretty much that weather balloon height. My question to you is, are we seeing more and more of these weather balloons coming in and being tracked and being investigated on and reported on simply because of the recent stuff? Do you feel like we're going to see more UFO attached to that? Because these reports do initially come in as UFO reports and then close-up good HD photos reveal it's a balloon. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for starters, we've established, I think you would agree even, correct me if I'm wrong, that at least the recent news and the recent events are not, in fact, out of this world. I think you would concur with that, would you not? So if we're going with that basis, then yes, the scrutiny is going to be higher right now. You got more people looking at the sky right now because people are like, hey, this stuff's out there. So it would make sense you'd have more sightings, but that's not necessarily going to translate into more UFO or more ET side of the house stuff, right? You're just going to track more stuff like this guy is that you're talking about. It doesn't mean, because again, we have direct connections that this is not ET. So if that's the case, why would that even have anything? It's no different than if we started getting more flights with Russian bear bombers near Alaska or whatever, right? It's just increased activity that people are aware of, not necessarily indicative of anything on the woo side of the house.
Okay.
Anti-woo.
Right. I was kind of more wondering if you felt like the topic of UFO, is being kind of, it doesn't matter. No one cares about balloons. Anyways, moving on to the juicy stuff, because we were just talking about a really great thing we talked about a little bit earlier. This isn't a brand new story, but now we have, the name Alfred O'Donnell here talking about managing, being the senior manager at EG&G, being contracted out to run basically Area 51 back in the early days. And
for
claiming
people who would ask, what did it look like? Can you describe it? I just got to get rid of a shitty here.
This Friday of Andromeda was 5.5 feet tall. It had similar features in a lot of ways to the Greys, where it has a large bulbous type head that has a muddy brown type, kind of like textured skin, where it has a variety of almost like dark brown overlapping with like light brown, similar to how tree bark is, where you can see the variations in brown tones. And it had large almond-shaped eyes, similar to the Greys. These ones wore clothing, and their clothing looked a little bit different. It was going in one sense, like I would look at it and I would see a human coming to get us, and then I would kind of feel the energy and I'd recognize it wasn't right, and you would kind of like, I pushed my consciousness forward to try to see more of what was going on, and I would see an Andromedan wearing more of a loose-fitted type gown coming to get us, and there was 3 of them, 1 for each of us. And they were quite skinny. They had long, very tapered fingers. They only, by look at, had what looked like more of a thumb and 3 fingers. And they just weren't very kind in general. They were not wearing shoes. They did not leave any footprints on our ground. I looked the next morning. I took my dogs out. They had a very good sniff. They were going kind of crazy, circling around the yard, trying to find where the heck these beings had gone to. It was pretty shitty, to be honest with you.
There it is.
Yeah.
Pretty shitty, to be honest with you. Pretty shitty, to be honest with you. Shitty, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the ending of every date I've ever had.
Dude, perfect.
That sounds like she's leaving me a Yelp review.
Oh, it's his Tinder review. So I know that you can't get specific with some of your work, so I'm going to shift this into my real question, because I know you can't answer anything specific, so I want to talk about something you can. And so about the whistleblowers that are revealing the secret UFO reversed engineering programs. They're coming out in Washington, and James Fox recently talked about this. And so as the U.S. Congress gears up for the new public hearing of the UFOs this year, investigator and filmmaker James Fox unveiled an exclusive insight into the classified activities unfolding behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. And in his tweet, Mike Colangelo, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this guy's name, but he goes by AI on Twitter. James Fox gives a tiny bit of insight through there, saying that, first off, more than 3 whistleblowers have testified to AARO. Secondly, these individuals have not gone public. Thirdly, UFO crash retrieval programs exist. And fourthly, some whistleblowers are still employed in these programs. And so there are others here. But before I go too deep into that, what are your thoughts on some of those? And can you speak on any of those points that he made in those revelations?
I would like to know. I need more details than that. Not as far as what you're telling me, but that doesn't really tell you anything. That's too generic. Like I've told you guys before, you can literally give me names, locations, whatever, and I could tell you pretty accurately if they're full of it or not. And the thing is, okay, so they've testified allegedly, right?
Alfred O'Donnell, let's just say, like that dude that came forward recently.
So that guy says he was the program manager or overseer
through EG&G. He was the manager. Okay. When they were managing, he was the top dude.
Okay. And so immediately I would ask follow-up questions. What years? Who was the commander? What building did you work in? I would go through like 100 different things with that dude that we could track down if he's full of it or not. Sounds a little out there, but I'm not going to call anybody a liar. And that's how you got to shake down all these so-called whistleblowers. Yeah. It's like just saying you work somewhere doesn't really mean much.
Well, let's assume that he's already gotten past that vetting process.
Okay.
Let's assume that and just take this story as is. And it comes at a time, again, let's say, the early 80s, right? It could have been any time after New Mexico, right? Which was what, 40?
I guess. Well, not really, because
there could have been multiple.
First of all, you'd have to coincide when that particular contractor worked at a particular site cross-reference that to the claim, because if there's certain dates where certain locations I could get information right now and confirm something.
Yeah, no, let's get past the vetting part. I'm more interested in your opinion on the reality of the potential. Like, I mean, let's say that was there.
Okay.
Let's not even pick there. Let's
say he's saying it's
say
true.
it went to right pat. Let's just say it went to right pat, because that would be the story that lingers with that.
Okay, sure.
And so EG&G, let's just leave that behind too, because let's just take the story at face value.
So everybody's telling the truth. Got it.
How would they be able to compartmentalize something like that potentially, so that people in the know are able to come out and talk on it, yet we don't have that paper trail anymore, because it was in the early days, before internet.
Wow, this is a tough one. I'll say it could be done, especially back then. It was a little bit easier because you had less people involved, you had less technology, less surveillance, less people with cameras. You could move things around, and there wasn't somebody with a 4K recording device at every corner of the world. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
People were more inclined to trust the government back then. So if they said look away or don't come over here, they would look away and not come there. Like, go hide under your desk from Russian nukes. People did it. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of, yes, it's definitely possible, but I can't stress enough to you, it would have had to be pre-80s. Pre-80s. Had to be. And I can't explain why. Just, you're asking my opinion. And I would say it is plausible, but it would have to be pre-80s. And
right.
And it could definitely be compartmentalized if it was pre-80s and with some of the stuff you're talking about.
Beautiful. I mean, that's kind of what that story is looking like a little bit, and talking about the potential that UFO crash retrieval programs in particular exist, meaning that they historically did as well. I'm sure it's nothing new. But if those people surrounding those retrieval programs or anything having to do with the historic side like this came forward and became whistleblowers in front of Congress, do you think that would have an impact in maybe releasing other people from NDAs if this starts to snowball?
No. And the reason why is because they're still going to, they might get their 3, 4, 5, whatever amount of stories that they'll get. And then what's going to happen is that committee or hearing that they're putting on, what we call the dog and pony show, it's going to go back behind closed doors. And then somebody at a much higher level is going to come down that works for the president and say, so you guys got everything you need, right? Nodding their head yes. And they're going to be like, yep, cool. Write it up. That's how that works. And nothing's going to come with it. I don't think. It would take something, I don't know, maybe if certain people were in power, but as long as it's status quo politicians and status quo government, you're not going to see that.
Right. Well, they're saying in this release from James Fox, he's saying that these whistleblowers, and this is more than one because it's plural here, can walk you inside the labs, quote unquote. And I'm assuming that means part of the crash retrieval program labs.
Cool.
And so if that sort of thing became part of the nomenclature in Congress, do you think that this topic could potentially elevate? Or
yeah, for sure. When's the tour?
Right.
No, you get what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be an ass, but I mean, really, everybody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that actually is legit in this stuff. And if that's the case, they could do it, but they know what they're risking to do that. And so you're going to tell me that they're going to sit in front of a committee in Congress and they're like, hey, you can tell them anything. You don't have to keep a secret. You can just tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. And they did. And they came out and they said, hey, we got reverse engineering, or we got whatever they're saying, right? But then they're going to be like, I can walk you through the lab. And not one of those people in Congress said, let's freaking go. Like, what's the point? Show us. Or at least send something to the president or the chief of staff or the Pentagon somewhere officially in official capacity saying, your guy says he's there right now. We followed him to work today and we know he works there.
Mhm.
Let us know what's going on, or tell us why we can't. At least do that. That's what the job of a real fact-finding committee would be, but they're not going to do that. I almost assure you.
Well, they may, but I mean, they're getting pretty aggressive with this. And I love your skepticism because it kind of enables the conversation into perhaps places that we haven't considered. But I do appreciate that. And I do think the fact that some of these people could be walked through the labs, or there would be a way in which that information can be shared. These people are definitely vetted before,
Right.
they make it to this level. And
I get it.
so all those questions that you have wouldn't be on the lips of Congress people. At that point, they would be asking very direct questions about programs development, and probably the fact that there's massive claims about actual craft and bodies. I think that's where the conversation now is. And so I wish that we could have that conversation, because I know there's things that you can't talk about, but I know you truly want to know. And the only way to do that is to get these little nuts and bits and crumbs and put a sandwich
bits.
together, you know what I mean, and sink our teeth into it. We at some point have to get past the vetting process, you know what I mean?
Well,
Just
it just
conversation is all.
no, it sucks, because the only reason I'm skeptical is because I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed that there's this show going on, because I want to know stuff just like anybody else. I'm a normal person. I'm a regular random guy. I just wanted Dave to laugh. No, but you get what I'm saying. I just like, there's a way to talk. If this is going on, if there truly is alien stuff, then tell people, because it doesn't have anything to do with the secret shit. You know what I mean?
But it
doesn't have.
definitely does. It definitely does have everything to do with secret shit. It's propaganda. The whole
Okay.
world uses this topic as propaganda.
Okay,
so
yes.
it wouldn't
Correct.
be able to.
They use it as a screen. What I'm saying is, in a practical sense, disclosure, as we often discuss, has zero impact on the mission of the United States government and the United States military, outside of providing a cover disinformation to our adversaries. That's my point.
Right. Right. The conversation of real craft and bodies at some point is hitting Congress and being received to mixed audience. And so they need something more convincing. And perhaps if they were given that element that was more convincing and they were shown the evidence, how do you think that would change things in our country or in the world? Do you think it would make any changes?
It would change. It's one of the longest, most deepest philosophical, ideological, like religious, even in some cases, topics of all time. Because then you don't have to change science. You don't have to change your religion even necessarily, depending on which one it is. But what it does is we can take all these History Channel hypotheses that are out there, and we can cut it down to like, hey, guess what? If we know these things are real, we know life is out there. We know we're not alone in some capacity, whether they crashed here, whether they wormholed here, whether they're whatever, insert theory here. If we know for a fact they are here, then guess what? Now we need to change how we look at things. We need to change how we travel through space. We need to change our entire space program. And also, we need to be ready to defend ourselves. I know people argue about some are good, some are the fate of mankind. I'm not gonna roll the dice on. We get the nice ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Just the other night, I finally watched a film. I think it's called The Last Days on Mars. And in this film, it depicts that's it, The Last Days on Mars. And so it's a small group of astronauts on the first research expedition to Mars. The mission is coming to an end, and everyone is thinking about their return to Earth when the lead guy discovers bacterial fossils proving the existence of life on the red planet. And I'm not going to give it away, but it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
It doesn't end well when they discover that, because life is unexpected, right? And we have no idea what it's going to do when we come in contact with it, even if it is microbial. So I find that incredibly interesting and a really harsh reality. And I feel like we're very much on the brink of finding life somewhere on some level. And so do you think that's going to make it easier on people when the aliens visiting Earth thing kind of is becoming a reality? It's more in our headlines, UFOs. How do you think that discovery is going to change things for people here on this planet?
I think some people are going to lose their minds, at least initially. But I think after, if it's shared in an intelligent way and they share what they know, which I think even if they did come out and say, hey, we have this, a lot of it's going to be like, we have no idea. I still think that's going to be the answer to most of it. But if that's the case, then people will adjust. School has to adjust how they teach. Religious leaders have to change how they talk to their following. Parents have to plan for one additional thing that's potential, or the general masses, poverty-stricken people in the middle of nowhere, for instance, or whatever, they just go about their lives like they were because it's out of their control anyways. And you put in all that control, and this is where you've heard all the conspiracy theory stuff recently about Project Bluebeam, and they're going to fake an alien invasion. I know you've seen some of this stuff trending around Twitter, and it's complete BS because it's not possible. It's not going to happen. But you hear about that stuff because people think, well, they're going to try to control us. They're going to do it. No, that's not what's happening, because they would have already did it. They would have done it dramatically. When they saw what happened in the last 3 years and how people just folded, said, yes, sir, we'll do whatever you want, even if it doesn't make sense. And now they add aliens to it. They can do it. So if that was the plan, they don't need to put on some show. They could literally just say it's the truth and get enough bots on Twitter until the masses believe it. So I think that, yeah, when it comes out, it is going to change the mindset of humans, but half the humans are going to feel powerless, and the other half are going to change how they think about their life. And a lot of it's going to be a very personal decision for everybody, how it changes your outlook on your life. Generations from now, when it's commonly accepted, and if there is disclosure of that nature, generations from now, it'll just be commonplace and everybody will be on the same page. But because the planet right now with 7 billion people that can't get along on anything, come from different places with different values at different ages and different genders and whatever else, it's going to lead to 7 billion different answers to that question. I think in the future, it would be unified in the way that they regulate, teach, and educate people on the subject.
I definitely agree with that. I'm 100%. I think it'll also make the topic that we're interested in, aliens from other planets visiting here, a little easier to talk about potentially.
Right.
The conversation is ongoing, whether that's real or not, but it's very interesting.
It legitimizes you overnight. Overnight, you're going to be called by a local news station as everybody. It's funny because UFO community is such an infighting niche thing right now, and there's like crumbs of money that everybody's fighting for. If this came out overnight, even a small show like SOR or whatever, you're going to become one of the defining experts immediately in the whole planet. And every neighbor, every person that ever laughed at you, made a joke or posted a meme about ufology, is going to be begging you to tell them anything that you can. They're going to be all ears all of a sudden.
Right. And so my final question of the night before I hand it off to Dave is UUP, your thoughts, because I know you loved USO. But
no, I was watching when you guys talked about that, and I was chatting with another colleague of yours, and we were cracking up. It was funny. I'm like, dude, the other individual was like, this is just a cycle where they just change the terminology. Once everybody gets on the same page, they intentionally change it to mess up like FOIA requests and stuff like that. And I kind of agree with that. And that's not my analysis, but I agree with that analysis. Makes sense.
Is it just too much? Is it overbearing on the subject to try and ridicule it?
What do you mean?
Well, in changing the acronym.
I think it's silly. It's pointless. The same way we're like, hey, dude, just keep calling it a UFO. Like, keep calling it a USO. Like, we know what it is. My mom doesn't even follow this stuff. But if I say UFO, she knows what I'm talking about. I say USO, she kind of, I don't know if she knows that or not, but I would tell her one time and guess what? She wouldn't forget. Okay, that makes sense. S for C. Got it. Even though it's submerged, but you get what I'm saying. And like, it would be easy. When you change vernacular, you change acronyms, you're doing it. It's coding. You're changing coding. You're changing societal norms on talking on a topic. It's kind of what's going on right now. I won't say it, but it's what's going on right now in a lot of things and other areas of our marketing, of our sports world, of our business world, where, and even in politics, where it's like we're changing what we call things to get a different result. So you're moving goalposts. The same way they do it with these other subjects and these other topics is the same purpose of changing the acronyms and vernacular. Because then now I can adopt it. If I created that or we moved to a new one, like, no. That was, yeah, UFO used to be a flying disc, but this is a UAP, you see. So now it encompasses aerial phenomenon and weather and all this other stuff. Like, no. We're not talking about, you look at a lot of things, there's a huge classification for atmospheric natural events, right? And part of this section now. It's like, we all know that's a possibility. Sometimes you see stuff that's weird with ice clouds or refractive light, or I get that. I'm not stupid. What we saw was not that. We saw a UFO, right? It's like, stop effing with us and just let us call it what it is and stop moving the goalposts on the naming of stuff. And it's happening all over society. So I think they're literally watching it. All we have to do is change the name, make it trend on Twitter, and then we can make it whatever we want. It doesn't matter anymore.
Some people are going to like it because it's trendy. They feel that it's moving the ball forward within the government. I have never been a fan of that. I think every time we change the terminology, I mean, look, we're on like term number 6 or 7 that started out as ATIP, and now we're at Arrow. Okay, we have had numerous name changes there. The UAP thing, now the UUP thing. Some people love it because they feel that, like I said, it moves the ball forward. Others who are more traditional, like myself, don't like it because it thinks it makes a little bit of a mockery in the research that has been done by citizens across the world looking into this phenomena, and all of a sudden the government comes in and bullies their way into changing the the acronyms.
Right.
How do you find that balance between the two?
I think what you're suggesting, though, is they're changing the terminology to possibly either adopt the younger generation or create more interest or buzz in the subject. Is that what you're saying? By making it fresh again to a new generation, so to speak, or a new demographic that you want to introduce the topic to, I guess. But that's not who's running these things. As well as I'm learning, most of the people that are good at this stuff that are researchers are old heads. They're, it's people over 35, over 40, over 50, over 60. There's not a lot of, I've seen some, like, what's her name, Christina. I've seen some nice young people that are taking it up, but at the same time, it's not as prevalent to them because it's like, I have teenage nephews and, younger people. Their take on this stuff is, for sure there's aliens. It's funny. The younger generation, they're just cool with it because they're down for AI, cyborgs. Like, they're being raised differently than how we were. So their perception is, of course there's aliens, so their thing for the younger generation, I joke about it, but I'm like, they're just waiting for all the boomers to die off to tell us the truth because the boomers won't be able to handle it. So it's like the Gen X is the linchpin of the transfer of freedom of information in regards to ufology. I'm kind of joking, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of true. If they actually know and they're withholding it, they've already lied so long to that older generation that they would feel stupid to come out now. Whereas the younger generation is used to having their privacy invaded. They're used to being lied to. They're used to getting screwed over. And it would be a lot, and they're more accepting of aliens and less accepting of religion. Statistics show it. And you can look at any study on that. So it makes sense that they would wait another 20 years and then start dropping them. I don't see anything happening anytime soon.
Right. And I also put to you that they made it, the DOD made it a mandate in Congressional Library of Congress that the term be changed to UUP, which seems like a pretty massive move. And I'm wondering, do you think that potentially part of it is because they've learned more information on it and
Do you
that the term rebrands
Sorry.
it properly within its description?
do you have a date when that's supposed to go active, or when
I,
this press release or whatever, when this was announced?
yeah, stand by. Get
And
you.
I'll tell you why it's relevant in a second.
Mhm,
I'll tell you why while you're searching. Actually,
mhm.
remember how we were discussing how the Navy's not reporting USO stuff anymore?
Yeah.
They don't want to play. I would look at the correspondence between the dates between that announcement and this one, and I'll bet you it's in the scope of time not too terribly long.
Okay, well, this was from a file that was shared Monday, October 24th of 2022.
Okay, so within the last 8, 6, 7 months, maybe, fair to say.
Yeah.
And when did you get the story about the Navy not playing nice anymore with reporting? About 2 months ago.
No, it was last summer.
Okay,
Or last fall, sorry.
so the same time.
Yeah.
So is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, October.
Oh wow! Imagine that.
Okay.
I had no idea what those answers would be to my questions, but I think it kind of answered itself.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the way I look at big picture this stuff. I would expect a correlation when you're trying to change a campaign.
Mhm. So the UUP mandate by the DoD office saying that term will be forthcoming in 2023 through the 20, and it'll be forthcoming, and they were going to put it into writing in the 2023 NDAA. Right.
Okay. But
so
you're driving with what I'm putting down, right?
Yeah, because the announcement was made in October at the same time that the Navy shut down any more information coming forth.
So
Totally
the Navy's
current.
not sharing any more information. And now, just in case you wanted to research it later through FOIA or whatever, or even Google SEO, search engine optimization for people that don't know, where everything is metadata, the hashtags, but works kind of the same way on the internet with a website or freedom of information or a government site. The way you would go about that is you would shut down new information, change the terminology. So going forward, when people try to backdate and look it up, you're going to hit a blockade of sorts in SEO and in FOIA requests. I'm not saying that's what happened, but if I was running the program and I wanted to conceal and or get people off the track, that's what I would have done. And it's odd that it corresponds exactly how I estimated it might.
Yeah.
Random guy for the win.
That was pretty nicely done. And that connection is so great because that answers my question so perfectly. Thank you. Dave, over to you.
I want to ask you, I know this is touchy, but I know you have a lot of friends who've worked in the desert. The big difference that I have learned is that there's two different Area 51s. There's the one that was CIA operated, where they did a bunch of maybe clandestine type of testing and all that, the nuclear weapons that were tested out there, the bombing runs and everything, compared to what it is now, where it's more of a testing range for private companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Grumman, Northrop, and things like that. From the people you've talked to out there, what's the biggest difference in the base from then until now, or are you allowed to go into that?
I'm not comfortable speaking on that at all, so I don't have any information or comment on that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Is there, let me rephrase it then. Is there a big difference in the history? I'll keep it more vague. Is there a big difference in the history of the base that maybe we should pay attention to?
As I said earlier, it is, in my opinion, based on my research, that if anything that is claimed to have existed at certain sites, including that one, but not just that one, it had to have existed prior to the 1980s. And there's a reason for that, but can't talk about that either. But that's why I told Timmy from the beginning, it's plausible there's aliens, but what it requires is anybody in the last 40 years is pretty much lying. And it's beyond reasonable like probability that they would have been able to conceal certain things in certain places. That's all I'm saying. And I don't care what manager, what intel guy, what whistleblower. If they have it, cool. Show me. I don't care. I'm not saying you're a liar, but prove me wrong.
Makes total sense. Total sense. And on
That's
that
all
note, I have to get up early with my boy in the morning. So I appreciate that. Random guy, thanks for coming on in. Tim, thanks for staying late. If you are a wrench who came in a little bit later in the show, can you please email Kira at business@spacedoutradio.com, business@spacedoutradio.com. We have some things that we're trying to put together for you guys. So it's real important that you guys go on over there and email her if you're a wrench. We have a list of the wrenches. So it's real important. Jules, I know you got yours. Deb, thank you for doing it. Joe, if you could do yours. And just kind of go from there. Thank you tonight to Tricia, Kira, Random Gee, Yum Yum, Gizmo, Thomas, Derek, Deb, Blue Cruise, Tex, and Major Lee for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here. Timmy, thank you so much for a great night, man.
Good
Great
job,
story.
bud. Great show.
We'll talk to you soon, bud. Oh, wrong way.
Wrong side. Bap. Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Have a great night.
Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.